For those of you in stream, if you're wondering why we're wearing masks, it's because we're in Brisbane, Australia. It's one of the few places in the world that you can actually meet safely around the table. But we did have a small COVID outbreak. We all did lockdown for a few days, didn't we? We were afraid this would be canceled, but we follow all the health guidelines. The health guidelines right now for maybe another week or two is wear a mask indoors. So that is what we're doing. This might be the only time you get to see us in masks. All right.
We hope.
Yeah, we hope. There's slides as well, Liam. I'm not seeing it up here, but
Yeah.
you can do that recap or settling in slide. All right.
Sorry about that. I was just focused on.
Yeah, no worries. Well, let's see. Yeah, normally, of course, with a long rest, you'd eat and drink, and we talk about any sort of disease or spell switching, but don't worry about that. You just assume that you know the same spells that you knew before. All right. Now, as requested, we're going to split the horde. So when the slides are up, there's a new slide for this, which is referred to the horde there, Liam. So you can put that up anytime. All right. So I streamline this. This is also pretty much strict D&D as written. I use the actual treasure tables. I randomize things, but I do it to speed things up and just to make things so that you have the ability to get things that you can then trade with each other. So if you're about to receive something, you're not stuck with it. If you can convince somebody else to trade you with it, maybe money for it, or trade an item for an item, you can push that around. The good thing is you are confident that you've gotten a really good amount of treasure from how well you did this last puzzle last time. So that is good, and even Renish admits that you did pretty well. All right. Each of you is going to get the following. This is after you divide it up evenly. So each of you get the following, because once you empty out the chest, you get this. I'll start the most boring stuff first. You each get 130 copper pieces. Now, it's only equivalent to 1.3 gold, but, if you're going to pay for things, generally, if you're a peasant or a farmer, even silver is a little bit too fancy. This 10 copper pieces equals 1 silver, and 10 silver equals 1 gold. So you have 130 copper pieces. And those on your character sheet, there's a whole section, sort of the middle bottom. You've got little buckets of squares. It's very faint, but there's something that says CP down there, so you could write it down there. Whenever you get coins in D&D, also imagine it's not a regulated governmental economy. Like, these are all copper pieces, and their value is actually their weight in copper. That's the thing that makes them worth 1 copper piece, right? But they're stamped with all kinds of different authorities. They come from all different years, different civilizations, they're different sizes, different thinnesses, but each of them weighs about the same, because it's about a certain amount of pure copper. Also, your share is 65 silver pieces. That's quite a lot. Now, I would imagine, unless if you got the noble background, this is something that wouldn't necessarily dazzle you, or a merchant. But
60.
this is pretty rare to see this much money in one place. This is a huge amount. That's worth 6 gold, 6.5 gold. So write down 65 in your SP, or add 65. That's worth 6 gold. And when you think about it nowadays, remember each gold piece is about like a $50 note in terms of what you can buy. So sort of I can tell by looking at things there. So that makes you feel pretty rich. But what would make you feel even richer is there's gold pieces. Silver pieces are being used by your merchant class, or they're sort of like a middle class kind of thing. So you'd very rarely even see gold pieces. It's like walking around spending $100 notes, right? It's just a little bit ostentatious to try to spend gold pieces, and nobody generally wants to take them. They can't make change. When you split it, you each have 4 gold pieces.
Oh, I'm balling.
But it gets better. Loot, loot, loot! Each of you gets, there's this assortment of gems and small art objects. Each of these things is worth about 20 gold pieces, and you will get 2 of them. And you get to write part of the story here. From what you know about the Abanphils, either they looted it from a noble house, in which case it's a very non-Abanphil, like sweet, pretty piece of art, or something that the Abanphils actually have, which is probably kind of wicked and powerful and sort of very sort of masculine chest-beating type stuff. Or it could be a gem. It could be a gem of whatever type you like, whatever color you like. Of course, if it's a very valuable gem like a diamond or a ruby, it's a very small one. Or if it's something like an opal or agate or something, it might be a fairly large one. So it could be whatever color you like. It could be sort of whatever cut you have. So just decide for yourself. You each get 2 either gems or art objects, or 1 of each. And when you decide, just sort of write down a little bit of fiction yourself. Say this is a little statuette. So art is often, it could be like a little painting. It could even be a regular size painting. You have to roll up and stick in your backpack. It could be a little statuette made of some valuable material. Maybe it's worth 20 because it's very well made and you'll be able to sell it quite well. Or maybe it's worth 20 just because, well, it's all made of jade, and jade is worth a certain amount. It could be made of bone. It could be made of a precious metal. And like I said, the gems can be quite pretty and all that stuff. Anybody want to share anything they've decided they've had?
Oh, I decided to go with 2 gems, quite lightweight, because you can just shove in pockets. That way,
Right.
at the end of the adventure, if something happens, we have to run away. I'm going to tote it with a portrait with it.
Very
Something I
practical.
can shove in
I
pockets.
Very
was
practical.
Sell and make my
I was
way.
on the same
Yeah.
line, given my
Something's always
strength
going
is
to
below
happen.
average.
You're going to grab something in time.
Okay,
And
great.
you're going to go, oh, you can't use that, you left it behind, remember? And we go, so these are the ones I can kind of, I might actually sew it into my clothes.
Okay, great. Very practically minded.
My
Anybody
art,
else? Sure.
I think my art object is a map of an unknown.
Oh,
with
great.
nothing on it. Just well, it isn't, you can't identify where it is.
Yeah,
It's got,
neat.
So it's
Yeah, that's
an
worth a little
an
something.
ancient
Any map can be worth something. That's cool. I
Yeah,
like that.
so
I like
something
that.
to find out about.
Oh, that's neat. I like that. Anyone else want to share?
So Tulip's grabbed a nude elf statuette.
All right, that's what we're talking about.
As
And
Tulip
kind of like an
does.
artistic, like Kate Winslet and Titanic style photos.
Yeah, okay, great. Very good. I like that. Yeah, this is all good color. I'm seeing it in my head. I like that.
How much
Very
were the objects worth again? Sorry?
So just put 20 GP and put that in parentheses.
And that's
Now-
2 of those.
Yep. Now these are a little bit harder. Like you won't coins, of course, you'll be able to sort of spend, right? You can spend them anywhere as long as it's not a mismatch. You're not trying to buy a jug of milk with a gold coin from some farmer who's never seen a gold coin, but generally you can spend them any way you like. Gems and art objects are also pretty easy to get rid of. Like your average merchant is just going to take it in exchange. But you can say, I want to actually make a move. If you're in a city and we do a move of investigation like we're doing here, like I want to get rich. Like my move, forget the mysteries of the world. I want to make money. I'm going to go and try to find the best possible vendor for each of these things. And the more information you feed me and the better of a match I think it is with the town or the kind of town it is, I might say, oh, well, that art object, that nude elf, for example, you find yourself now, you've committed to it, you find yourself in an elven village, and say, I think somebody here might pay more than 20 gold for this sort of thing. It's really beautiful.
Well, you could
And
be
you
arrested for carrying pornography.
Yes, or you get thrown in
Depends on
jail.
that,
How did you got
So what you do
Sure.
is as part of your move, you roll dice, and based on your sort of perception or insight or whatever else, you find the right person, you might sell it for 30 gold. So it's something nice when you commit to this sort of thing.
I would like a certain necklace that its little ornament is a mini golden chicken.
Great.
So it's like a rooster, but like if you look at it closely, like all the feathers are extremely detailed. And
Nice.
its eyeballs are like instead of like 1 emerald, it's like mini emeralds.
I like that a lot. That's
Yeah.
great. Okay, good.
Can I find an embarrassing photo of that guy that's standing on the platform?
That's good. Yes, I can see that being looted from.
Like a childhood photo that he accidentally misplaced.
Great. Yeah, I think it would, be a detailed portrait, a very unflattering detailed portrait of a young Renish. Good. This is all good stuff. So yeah, go ahead and write down as best you can. Thank you for sharing. While all this is happening and you're about to get into actual items, let's sort of paint a picture, which I forgot to do, which is who are all of you? I'll kind of go through in the order that I wrote them down originally. We have here, going through the loot, we have Mur the Unthinkable. He is a high elf wizard, played by George here. Anything special about Mur? And just this is just one sentence or so, like anything new that that we see about Mur.
He's like one of them grey elves, with like silver hair, like
Yeah.
white eyes.
All right, and that's maybe taking on an eerie glow in this red light that you're here. Okay, great. We also have Gawain. He is a human fighter, played by Maria. Anything new about Gawain that we might be noticing for the first time?
Well, I don't know if it's within the rules of, but
I'll try to say yes.
yeah, I have a feeling that there may have been a spell that had been cast on him, which because today he seems to be not the same age, but seems to be slightly older, so he's changed.
Oh, interesting. Okay, sure. Yeah,
over
modifying your
rest.
character is very welcome. Oh, or maybe there's something
but
about being
it might
here.
be a spell that needs that
Right.
he
Yeah.
might modify, that
Oh.
he's fallen on this spell and it's causing
Oh, interesting.
something to happen to him.
Oh, interesting. Okay, there might be a story there. I'm fascinated. Okay.
So what
Gawain's
you're saying,
looking,
you're cursed.
yeah,
Maybe.
Gawain looking a little older than last time you saw him. We have Galarian Gale. He is a half-elf druid played by Davy. Anything about your character that is new?
You can notice that there's nothing metal on him. So blonde hair, looks pretty young, but doesn't seem to have any metal. He looks, as I mentioned last time, a bit like a hippie, a bit rusty.
Yeah.
It looks like he'd wither in a city.
Do you think that as you're sort of divvying these things up, and you've even got coins or like little metal objects, and as these magic items are like, ugh, you know, if somebody hands something to you that's made of metal, it's like, you visibly repent from it.
Well, we can hang on to your money for you.
That's right. Yeah,
Kind
yeah
of
the coins. It's like
version,
just
the
put them in the
holding
bag. Just,
That's
you,
right.
you put it in a drawstring, tie it to the
We'll
drawstring
keep
without
it-
looking at
keep
it.
it safe for you.
If it's in a bag, it should be fine.
All right. We also have here Dell. She is a high sun elf wizard, level 1, played by Melinda. Anything about Dell that we noticed for the first time?
I found a picture of myself.
Oh, good.
So this is me.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. That's awesome.
So I think particularly noticing what Tulip just picked up and being a female elf myself,
Yeah.
I was very quick to pick up a woven silk tapestry and throw it around myself.
Okay, cool. I like that. Do you want to show that picture to the stream? And Liam, are you able to shoot do you have the down camera yet?
Maybe put it in front of Matt's face.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so you can zoom in. You can zoom in there. Very
Credit
good.
to the artist, I will try and do it days.
All right. Also here is Archie. He is a human fighter, level 1, played by Mark. Is there anything about Archie that is sort of new and unusual that we might notice right now?
Well, I mean, probably not
Thanks, Mel.
that you would notice, but he's Archie does seem to have trouble trusting people,
Ooh,
even those they're in allies.
Okay.
So he sort of feels a bit, you know, out of place. He
Mm.
feels like his place is the countryside, you know, that he
Yeah.
grew up on the farm and
Right,
everything like
right.
that, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So he feels a bit out of place here underground, and
Yeah.
he just generally, yeah, it takes a long time for him to learn to trust people.
Well, I'd also
so-
invite you, if this fits, I remember I said at the last session, is that if you've ever had a greedy, selfish, violent feeling in your life, like, oh, maybe I should just, like, take this stuff and fight people off if they want to take it from me, you know, that might have recurred to you. Like, for some reason, like, wow, I haven't had that kind of thought for a while. Something about this place has kind of put that into you, so maybe that's what's sort of emphasizing your sense of distrust, and you might be able to see that on Archie's face. We also have Derrican. He is a halfling rogue, level 1, played by Charlie. Anything, just a short little bit about what Derrican looks different or feels different than before?
Well, despite him being like, quite, dark robes and hooded figure, wears a bit of a mask and all that, with this new little ornament of a chicken, like, he kind of has, now he's got these deep, dark emerald eyes and this golden little chicken that shines about him, and he kind of realizes that, like, because it's something that added to his character, and to his person, to his goals, which is he loves animals,
Oh,
is
nice.
that, he feels like, well, this was thanks to the team working together, so he
Oh.
kind of has more, affection for the rest of the group.
That's really cool.
Thinking,
Yeah,
oh,
I like that.
maybe they're not so bad after all, maybe people aren't so bad, maybe
Cool,
working together
yeah.
is good.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, imagine something that's worth 20 gold, right? As if I said it's like $50, it's like all of a sudden is 20 gold, 50, 100, about $100, right? No, $1,000. It's like, this is like a piece of art that, thanks to these people, you've now got a beautiful thing that's exactly what you're looking for.
Pretty ballin'.
And in today's money, imagine it's like, this is like $1,000 artwork that I'm wearing on myself. That's an awesome
and
feeling.
it really adds to his appearance.
Yeah.
Because he's like dark, and every time you look at him, all you see is like these deep, dark emerald eyes. And,
Cool.
and then the little chicken. Yeah.
All right. We also have May. She is a human fighter level 1, played by Isabella.
Level 2
anything-
now.
level 2 now. It's
Level
true.
2
It's
now.
true. I should change all this, of course.
She's very, I don't know, I feel like I kind of told everyone about her. Feisty, like grumpy.
Yeah, anything like new. Like,
Very-
is she more feisty than at the beginning of this fight? She sort of
Yeah,
brought out
yeah,
the feistiness.
honestly, yeah.
Okay,
because
great.
She's kind of grumpy that this even happened in the first place. She just wanted to go away and leave everyone alone. She wanted you left alone. So now she's on this adventure and she's like, no, I didn't want to do this.
Good.
Now I'm here. So, yay.
But you're loving it. Classic Sundray.
Yep.
Awesome. We also have Varus. He is a high elf wizard, level 2, as all you all are. Brad plays Varus. Anything about Varus that we were noticing for the first time?
Well, already he gets a little bit cocky when he succeeds at things.
All right.
He's a little shy, but once he warms up, he's becoming a bit of a prankster.
Oh, okay, all right. So maybe during this, can you think of something you've done while all this loot is being done that might be?
Well, the thing I chose was an embarrassing photo of Rennick.
True. Yeah, yeah.
Out of all the loot, he's like, oh.
As soon as he saw that, yep, I'm gonna take that. I know how to use that. Great. We also have Tulip, who is played by Merv. He is a Hill Dwarf Cleric, level 2. So, anything new about Tulip?
Well, after noticing all the elves giving him funny looks when he grabbed the statuette, he quickly put it away and pulled out and just kept focusing on the painting that he picked up. He's like, just showing everyone, I have flowers.
Just flowers? Yeah, really. Yeah, what's on that painting, man?
Subliminal message.
Okay, good. Thanks, everybody. I've got a nice picture of all that. All right, continuing. So we have that crowd continuing to split the horde. Now, this is where you have the chance of getting magic items. Now, what I like to do is I have little cards that I hand out, but I only have a couple cards that are special enough to deserve a card of your own. Other things I can describe and you'll write it down, but everybody will get something. As you divide it up, just imagine that you was randomly grabbed or you quickly rolled dice to split these up. But these are things you might trade later on, and I'll describe those. But to see how lucky you were in your various sort of playoffs, everybody roll what I would say, I would normally say a D100, but I think it's probably easier if just everybody rolls a D20 and then we do some splits, right? Everybody rolls a D20.
Bloody hell.
Higher is always better.
Oh,
Has to be
no.
on the table to count.
No.
Who's had the highest?
I've got a 1.
I got a 9.
I got 11.
8.
17.
17 is the highest. Anybody higher than 17 or equal 17?
Nope.
Okay, so I'll write that down for 17.
Probably got a 1
Okay.
on that.
Who's got the next higher?
I have 11.
Anybody beating 11?
Bro, we all rolled.
Wow!
We all
Okay,
rolled
who's the
that.
next higher?
9, I think.
What?
I've got 9.
9? 2 9s? Okay, do a second roll off, so I'll have sort of 9 and 9.1.
I got 16.
Okay, so 9/16 I'll call that, and oops, not September 16th. 9/16. Okay, cool. And what was yours?
4.
Okay, 9.4. Okay, great. All right, who's got something below 9?
1.
Is 8 the next higher?
8's the next
2
one.
8s.
2 8s?
No, I got a 2.
8. Okay, so we got an 8. All right. Who's the next?
I got a 5.
I'm on 3.
All right.
Wow.
5 next
Very
one.
honest.
Terribly.
Who's next?
He's a 3.
3.
3.
Okay, got
Where's
3.
on 3?
Who's next?
2.
A 2. And who's next?
Jesus.
The 1.
wow.
All right. That's all right. They're all useful
We all
things.
rolled bad. It's all good.
So just for fun, I'm going to reveal these things in ascending power. So you who rolled a 1, I'll automatically forget who it was, but you got a potion of healing. Now the nice thing about this particular table, this level, is that everybody knows what these things are. They're worth 50 gold, first of all, so they're nothing to sneeze at. If you wanted to buy a potion of healing, you have to pay 50 gold. You can sell it for 50 gold. You can note that yourself. But potion of healing, when you use it, it's an action. And you get 4d4, no, 2d4 plus 2? Yeah, 2d4 plus 2 hit points. Roll 2d4s, add 2, that's how many hit points you get. Takes an action. It's very customary to keep it on a belt, so that if you're down, one of the polite things to do if someone is down and dying is you pull off their potion and feed it to them as an action that you do. So it's even better than stabilizing them. That's really handy. The same is being held by whoever rolled a 2. You've also got that same potion of healing. So write down potion of healing. And same, whoever rolled a 3 also got a potion of healing. These are good, they can save your life. Very common things, people say, oh, I got a potion of healing, but man, potions of healing can sometimes be the best item you could possibly have. All right, who rolled a 5?
Me.
All right, you got it's a spell scroll. You could tell it's a case that has a spell scroll in it. I do a house rule here because I guess I should randomly say that it's a wizard spell of blah, blah, blah. Well, when you read a spell scroll, the magic is baked into the paper itself. The components, the casting, it's all baked in. It's like an instant cast. Well, it takes an action to cast it. But you can only cast it, with some exceptions, you can only cast it if it's on your spell list. If you're not even a wizard or a spellcaster, you can't use it at all, in which case you might want to sell it or trade it away. Again, if you sell this kind of thing, it is worth something, which I can tell you about right now. Yeah, so it's still worth 50 gold pieces. So if these things, so these spell scrolls I'm about to mention, again, you can sell them for 50 gold, and that's nothing to sneeze at. This spell scroll, what I do is a house rule that if you have it, you're a spellcaster, when you open it, it magically belongs to the spell school that you already have. If you're a wizard, it will be a wizard spell. You can see just by peeking at the top of it, without unfurling it, it is a cantrip. Now, cantrips are not very powerful, but the great thing is they scale up with level, so it's always handy to have a cantrip. It's also probably a cantrip you don't have. The number of cantrips you have, we were talking with Davey earlier, they're actually quite limited, so to be able to cast a cantrip that's not naturally on your list is pretty cool. When you decide that you want to resolve it, it's good to do like when you make a move or come early, you can do this. I'll roll randomly what cantrip it is. And if it's a cantrip you already know, then I'll roll it. Okay? So, just write down spell scroll cantrip. And if you give it to a cleric before you open it all the way, then it becomes a cleric cantrip or a druid cantrip. So you don't have to commit to opening it up yet. All right. Who here got an 8 or a 9? Both 9s. Yep.
8.
All right. Those of you got 8 and the 2 people got 9s. You each also get spell scrolls, but they are for a level 1 spell. That's interesting for a few things. So just write down spell scroll level 1. Again, you don't have to commit to it. And if you're not a spellcaster, as we have a fighter here, you can sell it later on for 50 gold, or you might trade it to somebody around the table, and they might give you 50 gold for it. Or it's up to you how much you pay for it, but it's usually worth 50 gold. Nice thing about the spell scroll, again, if you commit to it, it will be a school that you know. It'll be a random thing, so that's kind of cool. It'll be a spell that you never bothered knowing, so that's kind of fun. Also, it doesn't use a spell slot. The magic is built into it. So if you're out of spell slots, or, getting a whole spell slot makes you considerably more powerful as a spellcaster. So those are also pretty good. So if you got an 8 or a 9, you have got a spell scroll. All right. Who got an 11? You find a tiny vial that looks like perfume. It's fancy. Do you open it up a little bit to sort of give it a sniff?
Can I shake it?
You shake it, yeah. It seems to have a clear liquid in it. It's got this very pretty, tiny little bottle.
Do it. Do it. Do it.
I feel
Do it.
When you get an item, you get to sort of do one free experiment with it, or you get to do sort of one free sort of, you might identify it right away, but otherwise you'll have to use moves later on to try to figure out. I love the exploration of these things. What the hell is this is a great example.
Chill cautiously opens it.
Yep. It's a very beautiful smelling perfume, so we stop her back up. So, all that I have here is a card that's folded over. It says tiny vial of perfume. It says date found. So just write down today's date, because if I want to look it up later on, I can see what it is, if I forget what it is. At some point, I'll say unfold the card, and it'll say everything that it does. But for now, you'll have to just guess and wonder. You can use moves later on to investigate, but you might happen to know what it is. So, you get to do a roll. Let me see here. Give me a second. One free move. Oh, to get a clue about it. Okay, yeah. So, in this investigation, if you get something, you say, I'm going to use my move to experiment more deeply and get like 3 experiments or something, or however much time there is. But just for getting it, sometimes you burn with curiosity. Do either history or arcana, because if it's magical, you might have heard of this, but history, you might have been mentioned in history, whatever's better for you. History or arcana.
They're both the same to me.
Okay, all right, go and roll that.
19.
Woo, that is not bad at all. Holy cow. Okay, this is great. All right. So the 19, I'll tell you its name and I'll tell you some things about it, but you won't be able to unfold it quite yet. But you can sort of write your own notes on this as I say this. You can write it on the card itself, right? But this will all be revealed once you open it up. When you properly identify it or experiment a bit more, but we'll do this is called this is called perfume. Ooh, where did I lose it? Where is it? Perfume of Bewitching. Perfume of Bewitching. You're not sure of all the details, but yeah, thanks to your sort of history roll perhaps, you say like, oh, this is exactly the kind of bottle that I've heard in stories. It has something to do with charisma, like if you apply it to yourself, you become much more charismatic in some particular way. You're not quite sure of all the details, but you know it's a good thing. You're pretty sure it can only be used once. It's a very small amount, what you've heard in history. That's one of the things that once you use it up, for some amount of time, you're not sure. What the power is, you're not sure. But it's perfume bewitching. Also, this is a common magic item. It's basically consumable, so it would also be worth 50 gold. So, At some point, I'll tell you when to unfold it. So keep working on it eventually. So when you take a move, you can say, I'm going to dab the tiniest bit on myself, and then just sort of, I'm going to see how long, the smell lasts for, and that might give you an idea of its duration. Or I'll have somebody else smell it and say, like, what are you feeling about me right now? And they'll have just they might have an insight check to say, like, I'm feeling a bit more X about you, and then just sort of fades right away. It's a very, very faint version of that, so it's a great way to experiment.
Be careful who you give it to.
Yeah, who you
Wait till
use it
you find
on.
someone like that.
And one thing, just so you don't get disappointed later, for some reason you have to use, you can only use it on yourself. You can't unwittingly spray it on someone else. You have to want to receive it. So you can hand it to someone else and they can spray it on themselves, but you can't sneakily spray it on someone. It doesn't work that way. Maybe because it gives you the confidence to be charismatic. Who got the 17?
That was me.
All right, you find a hempen rope. However, it's not an ordinary rope because it is very clean and it doesn't have like any cracks, any imperfections. Also, it's a very odd weave. The way it's woven together, it's like all the threads are overlapping each other in sort of a strange, almost bewitching pattern. So write down the date that you found it there, so I can refer to it later on. And again, if you roll very high on, I'd say, history or arcana are probably still the same, are probably the most relevant here. Let's give you some others. You might have a chance to just have an idea of what it is.
Oh, I got 2.
Roll the 2, and you have no clue what it is. But when you make a move, you can just basically play around with it and see what it does. So that's one of the fun things of D&D. There is a spell called Identify, which makes wizards feel very popular because if you get the right material, you can cast it.
I picked that for my level 2.
Ah, yes. So all you need is, I think there's a pearl that you need to find. Now, that pearl, you could have found that in that hoard. So so what you do is say it has to be a 100 gold piece pearl. Yeah. So you just say subtract from whatever gold you got. Well, that's 100 is more than you got, right? But, but at some point, if you get a very large hoard, or at least you can maybe trade with somebody else, maybe you got something else that you want to, like, give to somebody. So, you all have your items. You now can freely trade with each other. I'll give you a couple minutes to do that right away, but this is also something that I encourage people to do outside the table, because some people just aren't interested. So, go for it. You can trade, you can sell. Remember that all these things are worth 50, these magic items are all worth 50 gold if you were to sell them randomly.
So the spell scrolls, they're just like a single use spell scroll?
Yes, yeah, it gets used once. It's consumable, as they say.
It's not like a spell scroll. I learned this.
Ah, yes, you can transcribe it. Yeah, that's a spell page. So only wizards do this. But yeah, if you read something, so you can read more about spell scrolls instead of casting it. You can transcribe it into a book. It costs money. It takes time. You can come early and transcribe that, or you can look at it. Yeah, but you can't have it both ways. Of course, once you transcribe and take the time, you can cast it 20 times.
I just wasn't sure if it was like
I got a
Yeah.
spell scroll.
No, very
a
good point.
thing that you just use, or it's
Yeah.
a thing that
Yeah.
Anybody want to give me that chaos
Oh,
shard?
What have you got?
Give me a chaos shard.
Why would you want like those shots?
Anybody want a chaos shard? I'll give you.
Oh, anyone want it?
And when do you want to give it to me?
I've got one.
mine's
what
on
have
a
you got?
chain, so no.
I want your
I
chaos
want
shard.
chains.
Good for you.
I've got one. What have you got? I've got one. What have you got?
Were you willing to trade?
I'm looking longingly at your
Why don't you just
soul
give it to me?
and I'm thinking that you're not going to give it away.
It
I
might
can
be
give
the
you
most
a
expensive.
torch
that
and
I
you go
have.
coated with liquid.
You look at me and I'm just like, I'm trusting you, and I look at, I notice that you're not looking at me, you're like looking at me.
So
I'm
what?
like, start covering up, you know?
Why do you want a chaos shard?
I don't know. I feel like
Do you
they're
want to
gonna be
ripen it
useful.
yourself?
I feel like they're going to be useful.
I know it's on
What
the
am I
He
not
wants to get one on the chain.
Last chance to do any quick trades. Otherwise, you could do it during the break or do it before the session. Anybody else doing trades?
Since he's asking for my chaos shard, I'm going to pull out my deck of cards, and if he can guess the number or the card that I'm holding, he can.
How do we do this? Do I just pick a card and see if it's the same card as?
Yeah, between two, you
imagining?
might write down a card or maybe you roll dice to see if you get the right. Between you two, make your own little game
What
out
do you
of it.
want to do? Do you want to pick a card and write it down, and then I'll try and guess it?
Yes.
Does your deck happen to have 20 cards?
It's a proper play.
Feel free.
Okay. I bet it's red and it's a heart because you love love.
Nope. Queen of Spades.
Oh, well. All right. Now, as as I posted on Meetup, and you can see in the events, and I'll just look at the previous event where I posted it, you can do shopping between sessions. So some of you came early, and so like an example is the bedroll, right? So how many, yes, you got a certain number of coins that I just said you got. What they did is they previously said, oh, I want a bedroll, and I wanted this, and I wanted that, and they'd gotten it on D&D Beyond and put it in. Those things, if they bought it, the value on D&D Beyond was, how much was it? 16, I think?
So bedroll, it is 1 gold.
With the total
piece.
thing.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. And they'll leave bedroll. So let's say I just want a bedroll. That's worth 1 gold. Whatever I just gave you in terms of coins, just subtract 1 gold from it, or 10 silver, or 100 copper if you really want to. It's a great way to get rid of copper, and say, no, instead I found a bedroll instead of that. So sort of like a vendor. You can't sell things to this vendor, but it's sort of like you're buying things from the vendor. I just like the sort of convenience while people are usually excited about equipment, and you're not going to find a vendor down here, so I like to give people a chance to just find stuff in a hoard. A good reward for getting to the bottom of the dungeon. Wizards and other spellbook-based casters, I'll mention this quickly because it's not of interest to most people, but you're generally hungry to find spellbook pages. You always want to transcribe things like your spell scroll. You might want to hoover up spell scrolls to translate them. But also you can say, I'm just going to say in the Horde, I'm going to pay for a random spellbook page. It'll be the same thing. It'll be of your school, but I randomly roll what it is, and basically you just pre-commit to it. So we can do that through items, or if you come early, I can sort that out. You get a random spellbook page, and then of course you got to transcribe it just like everything.
I don't want to do that, but can I get some charcoal for my fine pavilion?
Yeah, so maybe at the break, just find out from somebody has a player handbook how much. Fine familiar. Oh, I see. Yeah, how much is it needs to be worth a certain amount?
10 GP.
Yes, okay, great. So subtract 10 GP and say you have found the incense and the charcoal in order to cast Find Familiars. That's very good. Incense and oils and stuff. So whatever gets consumed by that, and remember, it's gone. Yeah, so once you cast Find Familiar, that stuff is gone. You have to find another batch of it. So you can say, I've actually found 2 batches of it. You can pay extra and say, not only do I have 1 batch, I've got 2 batches, and you've got a spare in case you're familiar.
I'm not looking to do that right now to work out how much money. But I also got to save up for my power.
There we go, of course. Ah, yes, the economy. Any other questions about looting or about anything else before we move on to the next stuff, which is doing experimentation, perhaps with the items you've got? All right. Okay, cool. So we're moving on to the next slide there, Liam. Yeah. So yeah, last session you said you really wanted to spend a session digging deeper, and this is great. I always love it because my world has been worked on for more than 10 years, and there's layer after layer of stuff that's all entangled. And like I said, everything can lead to other mysteries. We have that pub meetup where you'll be able to talk about these things. So whatever you discover, you can trade with people and find more. So we're going to take a couple batches of just investigation moves. Now these are things that each of you do individually. I do encourage you at times to find 2 people that are interested in the same thing. When you do a roll, you'll both be able to roll, so effectively you're getting advantage on the roll. And that means that the higher you roll, the more you find out. If you roll low, you might get yourself into a bit of trouble, maybe a bit of fighting breaks out because you've delved too deep into some mystery that unleashed some sort of danger. If you do especially high, you get very deep mysteries and maybe a little bit of wealth out of it. So at times, especially because with this many people, it'd be good if a couple people decide to just pair up on the same thing. So you might freely talk about what you really want to dig into. I'll listen in. I'll encourage a couple things to be investigated, but it's not necessary. And I just say just go with what you think is useful or satisfies your curiosity. So why make moves, right? You'll get clues, for how to pursue more things, get more challenges and discoveries. You might eventually find allies. You find things that you realize there's powers in the world that you can start to use. As you level up, your party is going to be more powerful, not just because you're more powerful, but you can have allies and resources and locations that you start to draw in, and they start working on your behalf. So making moves can help point towards those things and what you need to do to get that power. All right, so I'm going to mention a few things here that I think are logical to think about, but nobody has to do these things. None of them are required. You can enjoy the game without investigating at all, but here are some things that come along. And then you'll have a chance to talk to each other and come up with totally new ideas. One is, right where you are here. So to find out more about the Vanfils or Renish, so as was mentioned, talking to Renish, that'd be something that you can say, I'm going to roll an investigation. When you investigate, it's not literally the investigation skill, by the way. Whatever skill you're good at, there's usually some way to use it to some effect. A silly example, but one great example is like, if you're great at athletics, you say, I'm going to climb the wall to talk to Renish. Well, that's what you need to roll really well at in order to kind of surprise him and impress him enough that he's willing to talk to you. Or say, I'm very insightful, so I'm going to try to read Renish's, emotions as I chat with him. Each of these will discover different things, right? Insight might dig up different facts than an investigation, which is very logical, or history, where you might literally learn that, or perception. So whatever you're good at, I encourage you to pick something that you have a fairly good bonus to your roll on. That's up to you. So when I mention any of these things, don't think, I can't learn about Rhenish because, you know, I don't know anything about religion or whatever else. Don't worry about it. We'll figure out some way you can discover more. So one is more about the Abanfils or Rhenish. Of course, Rhenish is right here. You can also go back to that initiation room. Imagine you have the whole run of this area, and we won't do step by step. So, you know, I don't like to make people repeat challenges. We'll hand wave the fact that you can go up the icy shaft, go across that brick walkway, go back to the initiation room. Hopefully the chains aren't thrashing at you, and you'll be able to check out the initiation room to some degree. So that, or even the Kobold jail. So imagine you can kind of wander up and down through any of the rooms you've been at since the beginning of your adventure. So you might find out more about the Abanfils in that initiation room instead, or in that ice dome, or what was up with, you know, the demons, all these things. So like I said, there's probably 20 or 30 things I could think of. Here are some that I'm just suggesting, and then I'll stop talking. Rhenish Abanfils, one you could pick. The other one, speaking of that room, is Torg. Torg the Red Ghost, who is weeping over the charred body of Eberk. If that intrigues you, there's things you can find out more about that. You never know where it's going to lead. So you can check that out. That's another option. The devil, the chain devil, is probably there. He said, come on back and we can make a deal. Maybe you don't want to make a deal, but you want to find out more about the chain devil in general. That's welcome. Or you can actually use your move to make a deal. You might want to bring a few other people in on that deal, like you sort of jointly sign a contract of some sort to do something the devil wants you to do, and you might get a reward for it if you fulfill that contract. So that's something to consider.
So doing a deal with a devil doesn't make us necessarily bad?
That's a very good question. I mean, you're judged by your actions, not necessarily by association. However, if you do something to make an obviously evil agent more strong, then you know, you have to think that you'll probably be led into actions that will be deemed evil. Though you can say, well, I know for sure this one action isn't evil, and maybe I can plead ignorance, right? But then you're dealing with the deities, and the deities sort of know, like, you knew this was bad. Yeah.
my deity isn't exactly good.
Well,
so
exactly. Remember,
that's fine.
this is your character's alignment, that if you do bad things, if you do evil things, your character probably wants to go to hell. Going to hell is great because you can fight your way up and become more powerful and take whatever you want. Yeah, so it's not like hell's a punishment for someone who's actually a lawful evil alignment. But of course, if your character is too far out of alignment with everybody else, you'll get into conflict. So you're massaging your character to be on the neutral or good side, or maybe a little evil based on what reading you get from others. So those are the ones I want to suggest, but there's a million others, and everything's rewarding if you dig into it. Anybody want to talk to each other, especially if you find a buddy, like one other person to help investigate, that's fine. Or just you can say, hey, I want to investigate this, and get ideas. You can share tips with each other. The more you know about something, you can add bonuses to your roll. So if you share like, oh, I remember this and this about that, you can share that. I'll give you a chance later on. You can chat a bit about what you know of these mysteries. You'll get bonuses on your roll. So go ahead and take a minute to think about that.
I want to
I would-
Rhenish.
I do too.
I've got a good religion check and I didn't practice it. Just in the civilized room.
I wonder why
See what that's about.
his brother
Oh,
was
my religion
yeah,
is
testing
But feel free to move around the room. If you've got somebody who wants to talk, you can.
We're curious about the chaos shards. I forgot his name.
like
Oh, yeah,
what
shards.
in his eyes.
We're curious with the chaos shards. I want to find
And
out
if he
more.
knows that the
Yeah, I got
treasure
one
or
of these.
We could talk to that Rhenish dude about it.
I wouldn't get too averse to
I also want to
investigating
maybe make a deal with the devil.
again.
Maybe
Just
see.
to-
Maybe.
I want to at least see what he's doing.
Want to see what he wants
And
anyway.
so
Yeah,
we,
you know,
red ones, and then.
I'm not exactly
The mirrors
good.
turned into blue.
I'm not bad.
Actually, my character just does not want to be here. So she's like, I'll just do whatever you want because you guys are eventually going to end up there, so I'll just go with ahead with whatever you guys want.
Just to have a look
Just
at the
get it
room
over
we
and
found.
done with. Let's go.
She's like, let's
The
go, I don't care, I'll
the
follow along.
spicy-
Yeah, because I've got something that I might, if there's any
Whatever,
imps that
don't care.
that was scared of us after we
Would your
killed you
character
quite quickly.
be interested
Would that be a
Magic
crazy
music,
out?
that's
So
probably
that's
about three
three.
minutes.
dude?
If they were scared of us and they didn't come down, and there's
Well,
still
if
some
it
there.
says has to be a brazier, I think worth
Also,
a certain
they're
amount of money.
mysterious,
Does it say
the
that in
dead
the
bodies
contract?
are mysterious, and that has.
Yeah, so try to look up
And
brazier.
eventually,
Yeah.
this is from there, eventually say stand out in a row.
Yeah,
This is
that's something
My
that you
this is
character
what-
very
But
easy
you want to
to
get stronger
back
first?
or
Yeah.
dead brother.
This is the
He's
question she's going to get stronger with anyway.
Like,
Yeah.
what?
Was it the blessing in disguise?
Oh, and the brass brazier. Yeah, so I would
Yeah,
say,
but she's still
call brass
grumpy.
brazier like, 5 silver pieces.
This is what
So
she's
just
going
spend an
with.
extra 5
That
silver pieces
sounds,
until you found
that
out.
sounds very in tune
Okay,
with
yeah, I have to
character.
go to this stupid class.
And the good thing is that you only need one brazier, even if you lose your
Oh, so I have a boss
Now you have a,
brazier?
now you have a brazier.
Oh, my character is interested in,
Well, I'll be
in
with-
general,
I'll be
getting
with you on
stronger,
that
but she was
then.
also just kind of like, okay, you guys do whatever you
Well,
want.
if you've
I'll
got
kind of
knowledge
go along to
stone
each one, and
cutting,
I'll
like,
just leave. Like,
in
with you
another
guys,
world,
like,
Mike
She just
if you go over
wants to
there,
get out.
She wants
he's
to leave.
glowing red
Okay.
fruit.
It's like when you're when you have to go,
Would-
okay, I
I'm
want to go to this
interested in
makeup
as
session,
well,
my teacher's
so-
going, because I don't know what I'm doing with this assignment, but I don't want to, so I'm going to be grumpy the entire time. That's kind of her. So yeah, and she wants to get stronger in general, because, you know, she's being
Find
chased.
advantage in it, yeah.
Yeah, she's being chased. So yeah, she
Well,
wanted
mention
to.
for those of you who want to get out, there's something I'll mention after this discussion, which is you can even use your move to, I'm going to get out a little bit and wander around a little bit, so you can actually get outside and sort of check something out very briefly. So.
I might go with you and poke at the dead imps a bit. You know, kick him a bit
I'm
and
gonna
see if they
summon
move.
my familiar.
Yeah, I'm totally
That's
into
what I
it.
wanna do.
Yeah,
The
we'll go
dead
poke
I wanna
at the imps.
These guys are
Shards
interested in
with-
imps as well.
You guys interested in the
I'm
imps?
interested in imps.
Yeah.
My character's pretty
And,
indignant that we got
Summon my
attacked,
familiar.
Yeah.
and I'm not happy
You
about
wanna-
it.
Yeah, he just thinks they're weird and wants to check it
Yeah,
out.
Wanna
I
speak to
wrote
Renish?
down that
Yeah,
I
Renish.
don't check on
Renish.
imps because they're weird.
Yeah. The
So
safety
you
want
of
chaos
the
shots.
review of the
What do you want to
splattered
ask?
one is also a bit interesting.
That's what I want to know.
I'd
I've
like
got
to
a
put
mental
on
note
my
out.
chaos style.
You guys can do all the
Because I have
TV
a
and
chaos
I
shot,
just follow the
and I
light, kicking at the
I
wanna know what it does.
Wake up.
What it's doing on the
Okay.
note there.
Yeah.
What it's doing to me,
What anxiety?
probably might have
Perception.
already a bit with these.
Perceive self.
And also,
Yeah.
we've got to work out why all the raids are going on.
You know, I'm very
And that-
survival
they would-
oriented.
You would know about that part.
Very
I
well
don't think
done
so.
yet. I'm
If
also
he has
very
any
Other than-
curious about my character.
Yeah, I was like,
So we got
About the goblins, no.
pay for the
I
place.
think kobolds would know more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Any
Like
of
he
three of
does
us
it
who
in
are
And
in
you
Russia.
should for rebirth and
Because like the reds aren't friendly with the kobolds.
What are you guys going for? I'm looking
Yeah.
We're
into
gonna ask Renish
Yeah.
some questions.
I
And
think
then
he's got a lot of
interrogation going.
information.
Yeah, we got 3 ghosts now.
Is Renish a man? What
A
race
human,
is Renish?
yeah.
Is it
Human.
human?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of pale skinned human with very dark, neat hair and neat little beard.
How much would you like to know? And would it be handy if we could make him talk?
We could.
I feel like
Should we ask him first?
I feel like
I'm smiling at
Renish could just like one shot all of us. I feel like that's how strong Renish.
He may not know.
I didn't realise he
Outside
was
of the
human.
picture of
That's
my
interesting
character,
because
this
I'm
is me.
human. And to know where
You can
he's
tell she
from
looks grumpy.
and
She's
how he
looks
looks
very
how
grumpy.
that would be
This is
interesting
my
to
character.
know.
I'm thinking he's a bit of a John Wick.
Bit of a John
He
Wick.
looks like John Wick.
he
Just
will
wearing
kill us
red.
all. That's the feeling I get. So I don't want to fuck with him if
As long as
he's
we've got adults.
if he's
Oh, yeah,
planning to
excellent.
like threaten or intimidate. I'm going the other way.
Well, could I have a look at Renish and see if
Well, if you commit to it, yeah.
Oh,
So
I
basically, you have to go on just what you
So
know
you
so
can give
far.
them
You're
a
gonna, you're
right
gonna sort of
thing.
take a shot at this, and
I
you'll
definitely-
certainly find something rewarding to find out. But yeah, decide on. Now, as you're deciding and you're chatting, because I'll give you another minute to tie this up. What you really want to do is you don't have to think of the tactics so much. I'll think of how you get the information. The most important thing is what is the question you want to answer, a
I
nice
like
sort of
the one
sharp
about
question you
shard.
want to
I think
answer.
we should find out more
Yeah,
about
so
shard.
share with each other if you want to try to get help, or if you want to maybe
And it's
interest each
also-
other.
you
What's
were
the
talking
question you
about
want to answer?
Why
Like
was
the
tall spirit
why.
tethered to the earth?
Why should
Yeah, what's the
Yeah.
purpose of this red dungeon and
And
testing
his
people?
brother
You know, what,
and
for what
Why
end?
is he not moved on?
because they
You know,
tortured
do you want us
people
to
as
join
well.
the cult?
Because he asked us.
Wait.
Yeah,
He
you know,
said that our
Is he
Banfield
a
clan
man?
is seeking new members. So is that
Because
just
that's the other one had the mark.
And who are the
Testing.
Abanford clan as well?
What is
Oh,
their
what
goal?
are they trying to
Oh.
achieve?
There's some good stuff.
So his brother
From what I
was
learned
a
from
man for
the
Paul.
kobolds, they're like neo-Nazis.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we could help
They're
him.
allied with the devil, so that sounds about right, doesn't it?
Like he's still
I-
like there.
They're not exactly good people.
Like surely his intention.
There's a
would be
lot of
like,
us and there's
I
only
want you
one
to
of
go down
Renish.
there So you can actually get rid of him.
Yeah, but we're level 2. He could be like
That's what I want to try and
Level
find out.
20
Is
and
how
just
strong do I
go-
think he is?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so you want to assess him as a potential enemy, and your role will therefore, if you have a chance of doing it. A lot of these roles, you know, you'll have like maybe a few minutes of chat with me based on a role, so you know, you want to have really sharp questions so I can fully answer that particular question. So yeah, last chance to focus that down before I'll start asking for volunteers. We can go in any order, and partway through we'll take a little bit of a break because it's quite
Maybe
often
I'll change the question slightly, given
And again, you can go solo, but if you find a buddy that wants the same thing, that'll help keep things moving along, but also your chances of success get higher.
Who here actually has the chaos shard?
what's the
I think we all do because we got them as we exited one of the rooms
Perception or religion checks.
in this red dungeon.
Oh, in the red dungeon.
Yeah,
Are you guys doing
Remember
get
something?
one coming into the red dungeon?
We went down into a room that had a whole bunch of
Can you utilize?
chains that we had to
and
solve.
remember
No, like when you still like when we got caught by the kobolds.
After them, there was just a pile of them, we all picked one up. So we all got stuff.
down the track?
Yeah, I mean, the branch of
No,
the
I found one in a wall.
In the what?
In a wall.
Oh, okay.
On like, because on the way into the dungeon, I just
Try
like
and figure out if like
wizard
this
sensed it
way
and
to
just
do
grabbed it
the
from the wall.
branch you want it's part of D&D.
Okay.
This is not the sixth
Good, I think we're all wrapping up there. One other option that I mentioned briefly, which I'll go into, is that if you really want to, it's like I'm more of a wanderer, I want to sort of map things out, so I want to get out of the cave and just look around. What you'll be doing is you'll be being very conservative and safe, so you'll be able to see things from a distance, like you'll see like landmarks and have an idea of what's there. You won't be able to like go in, but the chances of being attacked are very low. Depends on if you roll very low, you might come across a bit of a problem. But that's something you can do, again, yourself or with the buddy. So that's something you can do as one of these moves. Is just I just want to get outside and to get the lay of the land, if that's your sort. So feel free to add that to your list of considerations. And we'll start in just a mo.
So
Okay.
maybe if, since there are two mysterious dead things, if you want to investigate the imps and I'll investigate the real.
I'll come along with you. My perception of it first pick.
That's good. Yep, picking these different.
Oh, yes, perception.
I like open.
Yeah, what you got? Could you also
Has
insight,
anyone got
perception?
better
So
than
it says
plus
walkie,
five?
you got like
I guess that's made of a counter dice, that sort of thing.
Who would like to go first? A single or a pair that has a question they'd like to answer, or you know, an item you want to investigate that
I
might be a
want to
question.
know
right?
more about chaos shards.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So, that's I think that's good. Do you want to be any more specific? Because I'll be more likely to
I
answer.
want to know what ripening does to them.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's great. That's great. Okay. That's right. You had you carried over sort of from your other parallel world a ripened chaos shard on chain, which is new to you. This would be interesting for you to hear about. Okay. Anybody else? Does anybody else want to use their move? Of course, if you do that, you're spending your move to buddy up with this answer. Any last chance for anybody to join in and also roll, because that would get other results.
I'd like
Chaos
to.
shards.
If you're sure that's if that thing you most want is this is ripening the chaos shards in particular, which you see this thing on a chain, it's like chaos shard on a chain around the neck. It's probably good. You only need one buddy. You know, rolling 3 times is not really nearly as advantageous as one would think. Yeah. So if you want to commit to that, and that's your move is to join in on that. Okay, let's do that. So we've got. Don't worry, I'll warm it up, but we won't roll quite yet. So it is Mur and Gawain are going to be checking out chaos shards. I think the main thing that you would do is what do you know already about chaos shards? Because it'll help decide. And what I'll do here is these are all like extras that you'll get on your roll when you do. So what do you know about chaos shards already that might be relevant?
The reds don't want them.
Yes, because the reds don't want them, and that might mean that maybe depending on the skill, maybe maybe talking to Renish or seeing Renish's reaction, is part of it. So maybe it's something to use your insight. We'll see how we go. Okay. Yes, reds do not like them being ripened, and anybody can volunteer this. It becomes a bit of a group thing. We all have like a minute to think of things. Anybody else know anything about the chaos shards ripening that you want to add on? We'll give a bonus as well.
Well, the devil didn't like them. Like he was anti.
Very true.
Wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
He was very much order.
Good. Okay. Yes. That's a +2 that you're going to get.
They're glowing, aren't they?
His is not glowing yet, but you know that they're able to glow.
They are.
Okay, yeah, how do you know about that? Like, what do you learn about glowing?
The kobolds told us about it.
Okay, great. So I'll add that as well. I can be quite liberal with this, right? These are all things that if I lay down a bead, you know that's true, and you can start noting that. So yeah, when they're ripe, they glow a certain color.
Evo
The
had a
kobolds
bunch
have-
of them unripened ones.
You do have some unripened ones
No,
now.
I mean Evo had a bunch of them. All like, isn't that who we got them from?
Right, sure. So what I'll do sometimes, so where it's not clear whether it's relevant or not, I'll say either there's a bead in my hand or not, and I'll reveal later on like that was relevant or not. Yeah, that Ebrook had unripened shards. What was that relationship there?
The kobolds have, I forgot who it is, but some girl who is like just senses where they are.
Ah,
where the chaos
okay.
shards.
Yep, right. Okay, great. So I'll do the same thing there. Yeah, that
Didn't
sort of the
when we
mining of
come-
the shards, sensing where they are, might be relevant.
When we were marched into as prisoners, didn't somebody sense one in a wall or something?
Yeah, that's
like
where I
that?
got my
Mhm.
first one.
Right.
Yeah, sort of give out a certain amount of
Somebody
energy.
kind of sensed it,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, so there's something else again. I might add an extra one if that's relevant.
And they're trying to collect them, aren't they?
Yes. Yeah. So they're certainly.
It's valuable. It's-
Yeah, they're very. Yeah, they're
I'm not
extremely
sure if the
valuable.
kobolds want them to ripen them or if they want them to just sell them.
So is
'Cause
Okay.
they make them into a
why
So-
they're
chain.
collecting them, what
We'll,
they're using
we'll
them
stop
for?
there, right? Yeah, so stop there. Okay, now based on the two of you, you have to settle on the same skill that you'd use, and I'll sort of guide through this, right?
What are your good
So, for
skills?
example, what are you good at?
Dexterity, I'm good at.
Yep, good. Yep, that could be used. Any of your skills listed here? History might be handy. Yep.
And
Perception. Yep.
Perception, yeah, I have a decent perception.
Perception.
But
Okay.
my investigation's good, and so is my arcana.
Yeah. It'd be good. So
I'm
yeah,
good
pick
with
some.
animals and survival, so I don't know how that's going to go.
Let's say perception, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perception.
All right. So your perception roll is going to have this because these are things you know about it. They're going to sort of add on to it.
Yep.
And I'm going to start looking up about chaos shards now because I'll look it up in my wiki. Oops. And of course, all the stuff that is revealed here, all of you might want to sort of take some mental note as we go. Okay, I'll hopefully do. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to look very carefully here that they glow, and you're going to sort of try to see any sort of sign of that. And maybe being in the presence under hell, like maybe it's reacting a certain way. With the devilish influence that's nearby, you might have that sense like maybe it's reacting to that. So your perception might notice that. So both of you roll perception and add 3 to your usual perception. So whoever gets the higher is the one that we'll use.
19.
Ooh.
17.
Okay, very good. All right, 19. So I'm going to reveal that all those other things you mentioned, none of those other things you mentioned were relevant. I mean, it wasn't directly relevant. So there seems to be a really big difference between raw shards are used in a very different way from ripened shards, but they're both valuable in their own way. All right, let me get that down here. Oops. Oh dear, hang on. No, what's my scroll lock? Sorry, my keyboard goes into the scroll lock once in a while. I think that's it. I'm not sure what I'm telling you. Just close this and start it up again. Okay, I'll start talking while I do that. You see, with 19, is enough to succeed fully. So you're able to answer all the questions you have about it. Ripening is connected to emotion. The fact this thing is on a chain around your neck means it's close to your heart. And there's a strong emotional surge while you're wearing it there will make it start to glow. That color signifies its emotion. So each emotion has its own color. Then, as you're wearing it, if you keep feeling that emotion, it's like that shard is kind of watching. It's sort of experiencing with you, and you feel like a kind of symbiotic sort of feeling with it. For example, you can see in yours, like, what's the strong emotion that Myrrh has felt recently, you think, while you had this around your neck?
Recently.
Yeah, since you started wearing it, what's an emotion you started feeling?
Excitement.
Yeah, okay. So you start probing that. So both of you start thinking of sort of excitement, or like you each put it around your neck, and if you choose to, I imagine as you're exploring, you feel safe. Myrrh had it around his neck. You put it around your neck as well. And you look at each other, that when you start remembering or thinking of very exciting things, that particular thing, you see like a little tiny, with your high perception, a little bit of color starts coming out. So you know that you pour emotion into it. You also quickly figure out through experimenting, like where you're holding it and looking at it carefully, that it has to be worn around your neck, positioned right over your heart, for the stab and effect. If it's in your pocket or whatever else, it doesn't seem to go. None of these colors stick out. Like it surges a tiny, tiny, barely perceptible color, and then it fades back down. What you sort of deduce from all this is that you need to get it going with a really strong emotion. You think there's you believe there might be a chance, maybe from, you overheard with your perception, you overheard the kobolds talking something about mushrooms. There's about some sort of experience that will kind of kick off, the emotional bond. So you want to keep an ear out for something to do with mushrooms, maybe a cave of some sort. Yeah. So you think that is some way to get them going. Once you have it and they ripen, you also sort of sense, again, it's a perception thing. So it's almost like you're hearing inside your head. It's not quite insight. When you have it on your head, on your heart, you can feel like a little weird voice, sort of like whispering in your ear, and you feel like it's coming from the shard, but it's coming like through you. It's like it doesn't literally come from the shard. It's in your head when you're wearing the shard. It's an unintelligible language, and it's extremely quiet. You almost get the sense that there's almost an intelligence to this thing, like it's observing the world. When you cover it up, that little voice turns into like a sort of protesting tone, like the voice gets a little bit louder, and it seems relieved when you remove your hand again. So you deduce that it's almost like looking at the world with you and feeling it with you. So this whole thing has a bit of sentience, perhaps.
That's cool.
The other thing is the setting that it's in, the way that it's sort of set in this chain. It's got a very fancy setting. You can only deduce, perception can only tell you so much. You only deduce that this thing must be worth quite a bit for them to spend quite a bit of money on a very nice hard metal. The claws that are holding onto it are extremely well made. It just gives the impression of something like someone that they really don't want to lose it. So you can just kind of deduce from perceiving the way the claws are made on this necklace that this thing must be really valuable, especially, as it gets ripened, you think it might be worth even more. Okay. So that's a good example of how that all goes. Let me now fire up my Excel again, which decided to hack itself. Good example. So you see how that works? The fact they rolled together means they were able to roll quite high. These things all added onto it, and as well. Okay, I'm back. Write down what we did because I like sort of recap. I'm mentioning these things, and I'll keep track of them as we go. And also remember, when I asked, every time you investigate, I say, what do you already know about it? The things I just told you, you can remind me of those things, I'll give you more beads, right? So as you come up with more true things, it means that it gets easier and easier to get deeper into the more things that you know about. All right. Okay, so, make notes. All right. Certain things with chaos shard, okay, roll my.
That's your one thing, like if you go anywhere. So I need to get one thing.
Okay.
Oh, you gotta get it like.
Who else would like to do something? Who else like to make a move?
We are going to investigate the weird imps in the ice room. The ice dome.
Okay, right,
And
excellent.
why they were a little bit weak.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. Why were they weak? Very good. Okay. Now, as you do this picture, that you're all sort of taking your time. That it's very dangerous to split up in a dungeon. So if you're changing location, I want to picture that all of you are kind of saying, okay, let's do that. So several hours might pass as you do all this. It might take a good part of the day. And so I imagine that this being a team game, I doubt that anybody has a huge objection. Let me know if it's out of character. But you're kind of here to work together. So you all proceed up to the ice dome together. You work your way into the room. The Chain Devil is in fact there, you see, just sort of watching you, sort of, it's like a knowing look, just seems to be waiting patiently. Again, we'll hand wave, it's 10 feet up to get that ice shaft. So you might have to use, like, if anybody has a grappling hook or one can boost the other up, can hold on to the bricks and sort of, hold a hand down. So you have to do a bit of negotiation to go back up that shaft. But, you're going nice and carefully, so I'm not going to make you roll dice to see, even though if you're in a hurry, you could tumble back down, as I said before. You make your way up to the ice dome. The ice dome looks pretty much as you saw it before. The wind is still howling outside in the ice dome. And there are dead imps. These imps are still reddish color, and the bodies are lying there. But as such, you can sort of you're doing a combination of maybe looking at their bodies as they are. Investigation could be remembering what they were like. And this is where I'll start probing into some skills. But before we do that, let's yourselves and anybody else can say, what do you think is relevant? What they want to know is, what were the imps doing in the ice room, and why were they weak? So anybody have any relevant facts that I can give credit for and use some extra points?
Weren't they shivering? Like
They're shivering. Okay, very good. So you can look for that.
The one of the imps when the body when it died,
Mhm.
it just the corpse just looked very strange.
Yes. Yeah, there's something weird about the corpse itself when it died. Yes, you might want to probe into that. Okay, very good. And this is where certain skills you might pick might reveal more about some things than others.
When later on, when we encountered the second imp again, it was
Mhm.
much stronger than the ones that were in the.
Yes. Yes, that's right. Yeah, the imp that what
Changed it all.
That's right. Promoted.
Got promoted. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Does anybody remember how that it looked stronger? Anything else that was different about it?
Blue.
It was blue instead of red. Very good. Good.
Well, they had the onyx chips in them.
Yeah, when they died, they gave onyx chips.
Okay, good. This is something where I'm going to either put something in that's where that's relevant or not. So we'll reveal at the end, because sometimes they do this like, oh, I don't want to give away the fact that's relevant until we get to the end. Okay, what are the onyx chips about? Anything else?
They were different shapes, like they became spiders and then they.
Ravens.
Yes, that's right. Okay, yeah. So the fact that they're changing shapes, maybe that's relevant, maybe it's not.
Yeah,
They
okay.
were immune to force damage. Well, they were not immune to force damage or radiant damage. I'm not sure if that's very
Right.
different.
They
Yep.
were immune to fire damage.
Okay. Okay, great. All right. Interesting. Immune to fire damage.
And piercing and slashing and magic.
Okay, so let's.
Pretty much everything.
Okay, let's stop there. Let me look up. The number that we want to get here. See if we didn't do that last time the right way. Okay, give me a mo.
The magic missile was the.
Yeah, keep sharing stuff with each other.
This
We're,
one
we're done
counts.
doing beads, but keep talking about it while I look this up.
So I remember the two that were mirroring each other.
Yeah, those
Crows
two
are
crows
actually imps.
originally.
Yeah.
What happened?
There were so when we walked into the room, there were the two crows, and they just kept
Mirroring
mirroring
each other, yeah, that's interesting.
And so to get closer, they had to
Yeah.
the other one had to go further away.
To get closer, they had to go further away.
One
was
was trying
to
to,
us.
one was trying to get close to us because I was trying to feed one.
I don't think you were with us.
No, yeah,
Ah,
that's why.
before we're
That's
doing
why
it.
I'm asking why. Yeah,
Great.
okay.
Okay, so the two of you are working together, so you have to pick the same skill. And this is where I can think of a few things where the skill you pick will sort of filter the information. Some information is easier to get with certain skills than others. If you roll really high, you'll probably get everything.
So pick the same skill.
Yeah, you have to pick the same skill, hopefully one you have in
Perception
common.
or both good perception.
There you go. Right perception.
Okay, so this is both your memory of what you saw and what you can observe right here. So we've got three things here. I have a fourth thing to reveal. One of these things is correct, and that was, I think, the fire. It was have to do with fire. That was that they were immune to fire. So roll, do a +4 on top of your respective perceptions. On everything else.
16.
26.
26. The 26 includes all that, I imagine. Okay, great. Perception 26. Holy cow! Well, that blows way past the minimum. The great thing about that is not only do you discover everything, but you get something that is of personal wealth. Let me look up what that is. What was your role there, Isabella?
16.
16. Okay, yeah. So you definitely spot it much quicker. So you get the reward. 16. You still contribute. You're still observing things that help, but it's only you that finds this little reward as a result. Which I did not open. So you know how those onyx chips were everywhere? Well, you find some extra onyx chips, sort of among the snow and all that stuff that's sitting there. So you get the sense by that imps of this sort have been here before, because you're sure that you've got a chip for each imp, and these are sort of old chips that are buried more deeply. So you think that imps have been in this room before. The chips that you find is worth about 5 silver worth of onyx. So a little something. Actually, you did really well. You rolled so high. Let's call that 1 gold worth of onyx chips. Several more onyx chips. You rolled super high. Okay. Here is what you find out, why they're weak. So you remember, it definitely was the cold itself. They seemed really unacclimated to the cold. You could see, of course, they're visibly shivering. You could see that when the wind blew in, they'd shiver more. So it's just, the weather was very unacclimated. You notice that, let's say, the blue imp that you saw, of course, was not shivering when it appeared. And also the blue imp, was only there for a little while, but there wasn't sort of like a layer of frost, like this sort of frost and ice was stuck to the red one. So you're pretty sure the reason they're weak is that they were outside of their climate. It also makes sense that, okay, when you're in the fight, you notice that did you actually see they're immune to fire? You figured out by hitting them with fire.
One of them bragged that they were immune.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So having overheard that, so why would a creature that's immune to fire? You think that creature immune to fire, they tend to come from a fiery realm. You know, and that's just the way that you've learned about adventuring. So it's really unusual. So you can only conclude with this high thing. So I'll give you some things that you sort of magically conclude. These imps were brought here from a place where they aren't normally come. So they were brought in relatively recently. You also sort of notice that different imps were slightly less were more acclimated than others. So amongst these imps, and you could sort of tell that the ones that basically seem like they're the newest were suffering the most. So it seemed like imps were not just here out of their element, but they were brought here pretty recently as a result. This was also so high. This is something that normally come up for religion. Who else here is trained in religion? Yeah, okay. So I would say, oh, you're trained in religion as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so that helps. But let's say that your friends here that are over there, all of you said, it's just weird, like you're looking at the imp corpse. And it's like, it's really strange, like you don't know why is there such a strange thing as an imp corpse? And you realize when you've looked through different books, maybe anatomy books if you're trained in religion or trained in medicine, mostly in religion, you know that imps are extraplanar. This is why religion is relevant. Imps, they come from the 9 hells, they're called. And the 9 hells have a variety of different sort of environments in them. But imps can come from anywhere in there. That imps, if you study them on the material plane, you almost never hear about what an imp corpse looks like, and it suddenly strikes you. It's like when you kill an imp on the material plane, it vanishes into a puff of sulfurous smoke. There's no body left behind. And that's because the imp on the material plane, this would make devils so infuriating, you destroy them on the material plane, and they just reappear back in hell. The only way that you can kill an imp, actually kill a devil, and have a corpse left over, is if you killed it in hell. And here's an imp corpse. And
So
are we in hell?
We did open up into like a weird light room.
Right. So yeah, it's like, well, that would explain it. You were in like this very square brick room. You went down another square brick room. There's the exact same dimensions. You went through that door, and all of a sudden there's wide open space. This is something that somebody else say, oh, now I'm going to investigate that, so I won't go into it, right? So you can change your mind about what you're going to investigate, but you think that the only the reason that you can like you can anatomize like this corpse, and you can tell like imps, they don't have organs, they're kind of like just solid sort of meat of various sorts. But yeah, you now know for a fact that one of the explanations, and the first one that comes to mind, is that they are actually dead because we are actually right now in hell.
Is this
Further.
a frosty room?
Yeah, this is all cold. Yeah, so you're in the cold ice dome is where these imps were.
I thought hell was hot though.
Hell's
Exactly.
frozen over.
Yeah. Has hell frozen over? Why are these imps? These imps obviously weren't used to it being cold, but then that imp appeared that was blue, and it seemed to not be affected by the cold at all. So these are all things you could dig deeper into, and I can only talk for so long on any particular thing, no matter how well you roll.
is it possible?
But see how each mystery just opens up a couple extras.
Is it possible to skin these imps?
It'd be very messy. You'd have to do very well. So again, as you move later on, you can take a corpse of the imp with you. So feel free for free. You can put it in your backpack. If you want to actually act to skin it, then we'll have to do a move later on. Yeah. So feel free to take an imp corpse. But more about that might take another move.
I feel like if we skinned it and make a cloak, fire protection cover.
They're not very big though. are they?
would need a few.
Only
Yeah.
until while you're in hell, because it might just disintegrate once you leave hell.
Could be.
So the room that we're in, it has stone walls? What sort of walls?
It has a brick floor, and there's a big sort of icy dome, that's sort of like a ceiling all around. It has an opening on the side, and then the brick floor continues on a brick walkway, and you know that even though it's too dark and it's all pitch black out there and goes beyond your dark vision, but you're hoping that the door back to the room is right the way you came.
Can I look at the dome? Is the dome...
Yeah, so
brick as well,
we'll
or-
convert that into another move. So I've concluded on their move here, but because it's perception, I'll also give just one other bonus that now that you look, you think, oh yeah, we went to that brick room, this other brick room. Speaking of which, the bricks here on this floor, and they're in the next room down, next room, they're like perfectly regular. They do not have a single flaw, a single variation in color. There's not a chip out of any edge of any of these bricks. And you remember the bricks in the room with the chains? There were scrapes, and the bricks were slightly discolored and slightly different shapes and things like that. Certainly in the Kobold jail, they were kind of rotten. So that also strikes you from the perception point of view. That's different here. Okay. Who else has got to move? And again, you can roll on those things, but I'm sure you've got a million things, and we only have so many ways to do it.
Well, I'd love to look around at what after learning about the imps and learning about the fact that it's weird that there's corpses.
Mm-hmm.
I want to just try and determine where we are.
Okay, great.
And I'd like to study have a look at the dome and see what it's made out of and see what might be on the other side of it.
Okay. Very good. Do you have anybody that wants to spend their move to stack on with that? That's okay. It's okay to roll solo. We only need a few people to double up in order to make this move along. But yeah, feel free to
I don't know a lot about
to get a buddy or do it yourself. Anybody else?
I've got some privilege and I could probably.
Right, and this is where you might find somebody. Oh, we're both pretty strong on this skill because they have to use the same skills.
You don't tell, 'cause you're not allowed
And of course, if you're yet to make a move, you can start chatting with each other. So
Yeah, because that outside of it, remember, it was just this massive space and it was unending, right? That was after we left the door and it just went along that and it got really close. Wonder if it's.
I'm not sure if we can see outside of the dome or.
Mm-hmm.
Can you actually walk around the dome, or is it just a
Like
Yeah,
on the
I can
outside
describe
of
all
it?
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll roll that in. So yeah, you
Yeah.
want to know about where we are and particularly how's the dome fit into it. So that could be your question. We can answer
So
that depending
let's-
on how well you roll.
Going into a
So
different realm.
when you came
what
through
is this
the trapdoor from the Kobold jail, what was that? Is that the dome?
No,
What
no.
is that?
So the first, from what I remember, the trapdoor we went down and there was a room with magical chains that were attacking us. And we got out of that room. There was a bunch of chaos shards in there that we picked up. We had to solve something to get through a door.
Okay.
When we went out the door, there was a long bridge, and we're in the dome room, the round room. The rooms that we were in below, a bandful room was one room away from I think it was a square room where we had a chain devil
Yeah.
with a whole bunch
Yeah.
of souls in there.
And
That was
Liam,
down the
if
shaft
you got the
room.
top-down camera, I'm showing
There's
something
a
here, but you don't
sharp
have to.
in
It's
the
not that.
middle of
Okay, yeah. So this will
okay.
save time.
And that's
This is-
directly under
And
there.
we've climbed
Yeah.
up the shaft.
So you were in the Kobold jail, which was up here. It was like a
Right.
60 by 60 foot brick room. You went down through a trap door that Tor guarded. You went to another brick room, 60 by 60 foot. That's where all these chains were whipping around. You solved that puzzle with the mosaic, right? That's why I've drawn here. The door that was blocked up by chains, you solved the puzzle and unlocked the chains. As you opened up, you went in a huge wide space. And this is a brick walkway, a narrow brick walkway. Still made the same bricks all through here off into the darkness. But in all directions, you couldn't see a ceiling or any walls, and there's howling wind and flying snow. Eventually, as you got down to this end, you could just see a ground down here on the edge of your dark vision. So those who have 60-foot dark vision, could just see. You might have had somebody who had a 120-foot dark vision, which meant that they saw the ground much more easily. So you think 50 or 60 feet down in spots, you could see an ice-covered landscape with some rocky outcroppings. The ice dome itself, I'll describe more, as you make this move. But it basically almost like a bulge or a boil. It's like the snowy landscape was kind of like erupted upwards into this big sort of bulge, and then cut into the side of it was a little archway. The brick went in through that archway and is hollow on the inside. So that's where you are as you look at these dead imps and stuff. Yeah, so it's hollow inside this dome. There's icicles and things on the ceiling. And then in the middle, that's the brick shaft. That's what this is here, that somewhat diagonal shaft that leads down to the chain devil.
Okay.
Did we enter the dome at its base?
It's sort of
Or
midway up.
partway up?
Yeah, partway
So
up.
there's
partway up.
underneath it
Mhm.
that we can't see.
That's right, yeah. So you're just going horizontally, the ground was about 60 feet down
Yeah.
here, which means that here, there's might be something underneath. But of course, you did go down. You went down to another brick room.
Yes, yes.
Right. Because I was under the impression that we're like underground, where
Ah,
like
yeah.
a big
Very
cavernous
strange,
thing.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
So this move might discover that more. Okay, so we're going to do that. Now, let's review. We sort of mentioned a few things already, but what do you know that might be relevant to where we are, especially as it might respect to dimensional planar stuff or the ice dome itself?
Well, the imps aren't from our normal planet, so we're not Not in Kansas anymore.
Okay,
Where-
yeah, let's
where-
use that, right?
where
Yeah, the
in
fact that imps are here and the fact that the imps are dead. We have a pretty strong indication we're in hell. That's definitely
There
a
was-
plus.
Really,
there was a-
really cold.
Yes, really cold. Exactly, that's relevant.
There
Well,
are winds which
yeah,
are generated by things such as like water, tides, earthquakes. So obviously we're not in an enclosed room.
Yeah, we're supposed to be underground and yet we've just gotten into wind, which is impossible.
oh, okay, very good. Okay, yeah, I think that's got to be relevant. Sure. Yeah, where's the wind coming from if you're still underground?
And we're not in a natural environment in terms of the dome. Somebody constructed all this.
Okay, yep. That might be. I'll keep that mysterious whether it's relevant or not.
There was the chain devil in the room below,
Yes.
and it created an imp.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not sure the relevance there, but
That could only
a
happen.
devil is kind of a higher version of an imp, right? So it's some. Why is there a devil thing as well?
And we saw it go from a lemure to a blue imp too, so it got promoted. So
Yeah.
that can't happen when
Sure. Yep. Okay. That may be relevant or not.
There was that mirror there that was looking down.
Yes. Yeah. Each of these rooms is a red mirror, including here in the ice dome. There's a red mirror looking here,
So
and there's
chain devil.
chains everywhere as well. So I haven't described all that.
Yeah, the chain devil can still see into this room as well.
Yes.
There was that mysterious thing we were talking about with the two ravens that were mirror images of each
Mhm.
other when they were in that dome.
Yeah.
So whether that was something physical in there or whether it was something of the imps.
Okay. Yep. That might be relevant. So I'll
The
also-
very fact that this long
Last
brick walkways seem to be, I would say, almost magically held in place. There didn't seem to be anything supporting it or
interesting.
hanging from
Sure.
anything. So it suggests that there's some magic.
Yeah. Okay. That's great.
Yeah,
Well, we'll have to
plays
stop there.
environment.
What was the thing that you mentioned? Because I actually.
The mirror image.
That's right.
ravens.
That's right. Okay, great. So we'll go ahead and do a skill check. While I remember, I'll reveal what things are relevant. Two things of the things you elected are relevant. One is the way that the way that the imps were moving in this weird symmetrical way. That is relevant, and depending on how well you roll, you'll know why it's relevant. What was the thing that you had said?
I said the fact that the
walkway. Yeah.
was just sort of suspended
Yeah,
with
yeah,
nothing.
with this very long span seems
Yeah.
to defy sort of common engineering. Okay, so we have 5 things that are all relevant here. Now it's a matter of figuring out what are you good at, because either you're good at or you think it's a category that's going to reveal a lot, because this is where you can reveal very different kinds of
I'm
stuff.
trying to perceive where we are. So
Sure.
perception.
Yeah.
I'm good at.
Okay, yeah. Now this is an example just as your coach. Let's say we've had a few perception things already, and so you might be starting to squeeze the juice out of what can be perceived. Sometimes it's better to pick something, well, I'm only at a +1 instead of a +2. That's only 5% difference, but I might get a whole different set of information. So like religion, for example, if you're not very good at it, you still might get more information by having something you don't roll very well. That's a bit of a gamble, right?
You've also got a +5 on the board, so you're probably going to roll half.
What about survival? Does that help in this sort of circumstance?
That's interesting.
I'm trying
Yeah,
to look at
yeah,
what
it
the
would-
terrain is like and where we are.
Yeah, sure, exactly. That I would definitely speak to the natural unnaturalness of your environment, which might be relevant also. Yeah, survival would be an interesting way to go.
No, cool. I'll do survival.
Okay, yeah, and also maybe your instincts, like what causes the hair on the back of your neck to rise up and stuff like that. Okay, great. Roll with that, and you got a +5 on top of everything else. Ooh, great.
28.
Woohoo!
Yes.
29.
Well done.
So
What is that?
Wow, all right.
I rolled a natural 19.
Just
On the
Yeah.
laptop, that's
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Okay, great. Okay, cool. Let me figure this out.
29.
Yeah, I'd say survival. The reason you do so well is that you are so like. I'm a mountaineering type. I'm gonna start like just kind of free bouldering around here. Like you go out and you're kind of like you climb out, on the edge of the dome. It's like you're like I got this. Maybe this.
I've got pittance.
Yeah, exactly. You've got pittance. You've got a lot of confidence. And you just basically feel like I'm on, right? So you're able actually you see him Gale climb around and sort of look underneath the bricks and just do all this stuff. Like, dude, this is very dangerous. But the fate is on your side. Okay. So it's a bit weird. The ice and the rock are behaving quite a bit like they would in a geological formation. Like there's a kind of a pressure or something's pushed it up from below. So they definitely show signs of the rocks and ice have sort of cracked and regrown. So it doesn't seem like it's artificial constructed, like somebody just imagined a nice dome. It has an irregularity to it. That means something was sort of pushing it up from below. And as you're sort of doing your pitons and moving around, you notice something very subtle because you're very alive to the dangers of climbing. And as you do, you notice that the bricks are slightly like sliding around and reconfiguring, like this thing, the bricks are sort of sliding very slowly past each other and creating little gaps. And like this dome is very slowly getting bigger, it seems. Very imperceptible because you rolled so well, it goes up there. On the underside of this track, you see a skeleton. This is a skeleton that's hanging onto a couple pitons.
Didn't roll quite so well.
And the bottom half of the skeleton is gone. You, with again survival, like something large bit the bottom half of this creature, this unfortunate creature, out from under it. And you hear with your survival instinct, like you're very far off, like flapping of wings and these weird calls that don't match any sort of beast that you've ever heard of before. So you think that, okay, this is a bit of a dangerous thing. But this person is wearing some nice sort of jewelry and stuff. So you managed to find, you've got something worth a brooch. You can't tell the gender, but it'd be one that might be more sort of with a female expression than a male expression, as far as like the sort of the cultural mode that you're seeing. It's like of a what would it be? Half orc, sort of a half orc style brooch, which has got sort of gems and things in it. They're like little bits, but it's worth a gold piece. So orc or half orc, you think that she was wearing this when she was adventuring around and she got bitten in half.
And where is the skeleton again? Was it underneath? Or
Yeah, sort of underneath this, as you're going around, sort of like it is sort of mostly buried in the ice. Sort of like as if she'd been sort of crawling up, and then something bit her in half, and the ice and snow covered her up. But you're so bold with your survival that you're able to move around and find this. It's just a way of saying that you get a little bit of material reward for rolling so well. Okay, so that's how the dome is made. As far as whether you're in, this isn't inconsistent with you being in hell. You feel like you are in an extremely large enclosed space, like an enclosed space that is like might be an underground cavern, but it would be miles and kilometers in every direction. You can just kind of sense that, with your survival ability doing so well. So it's conceivable that you can have weather and wind and things. Maybe there's an opening somewhere, but you somehow become certain that though it looks a lot like an outside landscape, there is some sort of rocks and ceilings and stuff very, very far away. This is consistent because you get some crossover because you do so well. And so, well, that hell is basically looks like an underground space, but with very large underground spaces. So this definitely supports the theory that you're in hell.
We're in a plane of hell.
Yeah, you're in a plane of hell. And you're in a place that is completely ruled by ice and snow. It's not like something magical has recently created the ice and snow. You see every sign the ice and snow has been here for millennia. So it's a plane of hell that is designed to be cold. And just because it'll make it a little bit easier, and because you rolled so well, I'll give you one thing for free, even though it goes in religion, because maybe you read sort of like Rock Climbing Weekly. And it says, if you want a real challenge, do rock climbing in Cania. Cania is the name of the particular one of the 9 hells is called Cania.
How do you spell that?
C-A-N-I-A. And Cania is a cold plane of hell. It's all about the suffering of, hell's a miserable place in many ways. You are correct that many of them are hot.
Talking about that before, yeah, I was saying that I saw like a little diagram. It's actually cold, yeah.
Good, okay, good.
Is that us? Was it like fangirling?
Wow.
Yeah.
I actually am.
Cania is the source. So so it's magically cold, of course. It's divinely cold. It's because of the divine nature of it that this cold is magical in nature ultimately. And that from this Rock Climbing Weekly newsletter that you read on a scroll somewhere, that Cania is vast. It just goes for kilometers in every direction. Has all kinds of promontories. And says, but watch out for the devils, they'll eat you. So you get an idea.
Does this information tell us whether this puzzle room is also in hell, or did it start when you went through the door?
Yeah. So I'd say because you've done a couple things that sort of goes back to your perception as well, that you did notice, and I mentioned briefly, so you remember, that the door itself was extremely cold, and the floor was quite cold, and it's probably the cold was radiating from Cania into this room. The reason that the rooms were cold was just because conductive heat motion. So like Cania is the source of the cold, is the reason why those other rooms are cold. Whether that room's in Cania or not, you're not sure, but you know that that room was chilly, but it became intensely more cold once you got through the door and got out in the open here. Yeah, so you're sure that you're in material plane before, you're sure you're in Cania now. What point did you do the changeover? I'd say your best guess is that doorway in particular, was a sharp transition between the two. Okay.
We weren't mucking around when we went to the hard.
That's right, yes. We went to hell.
We've been rolling really high on all our investigations.
Yeah, that's right. Who here still got to move? Raise your hand if you still got to move. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. So I think 5.
I think so.
No, I think you used to move
Oh,
to
yeah, we
Para.
went together, didn't
So
we?
remember, if you buddied up with somebody, you
That's
used
right, I
to.
forgot about that.
Yeah. So given that, raise your hand if you've got a move of your own. Okay, 4. Great. So that's pretty good. So what we'll do is we'll take a break. Take a 5-minute break. Use the facilities, buy something. If there's nobody there, let me know. You can actually grab something from the fridge and we'll write it down. You can pay for it later. So if you can't wave somebody down, feel free to just grab it anyway. Talk with each other about what continued investigations may be and stuff like that. That could be fun. And we'll get right back here and we'll have time for everybody else to maybe of you remaining. It'd be good to get one more buddy. So maybe among you who haven't done it, it'd be great for you to buddy up. Of course, you can see how beneficial it is when you have a chance to roll high. So think about that and we'll come back. I forgot to mention before we broke up that you get XP just for doing exploration. Now XP is, and now you're level 2, you're actually writing down XP on your card. You can just write down a running total, but sometimes people make a little note in tiny letters that just say, what the date is or just, investigation. So you get some XP, and I'll usually give it out a few times during the session just to give people a sense of immediate reward. The XP you get is really based on how much danger you were in. If you die, you lose XP. Like you can actually lose XP down to whatever was at the beginning of your level. You'll never lose a level, but you can lose all the XP that you progressed into the next level if you die. And that's across all of your characters, of course. Your XP is shared. So you get more XP for things that have a legitimate chance of leading to your death or weakening you so much that something else might kill you later. There is no real danger. There's slight danger. You'll reveal that as I go on. If you that's right. If you roll particularly low, like I said, you might get into some danger. But I'll still call it what I call an easy encounter according to the DMG. And at level 2, that is 50 XP. So write down 50 XP. Now, how much XP does it take to get to be level 3? 900? Yeah, 700, 900. So
Maybe I'm
500 off, basically.
Yeah, and these investigation things, because you're not taking a lot of risks, you don't gain quite as much XP, but you get so much information, it could lead to more XP later on. So it's a bit of an investment in the future. So let's get right back into it. We're going to do the same things before. Those of you who have not gone yet, again, with or without a buddy, what is the next thing you want to investigate?
And then I'll go with you.
We'll do Renish first.
Okay, sure.
Renish to ask the man
Cool.
some
Okay.
questions.
All right, so you want to know more about Renish. What's the sharpest question you could ask?
So I'm thinking about the point of this whole dungeon.
Okay.
So he's been testing us right from when we were outside. We met him at the fireplace
Yeah,
with
sure.
the kobolds.
Mm-hmm.
They've been testing us in here about our strength and bravery.
Right.
They said they wanted more members for the clan.
Mm-hmm.
But, why? What's it all for?
Yeah.
What's the end game for the Evanthal clan?
Okay. Very good. So that's a great sharp question. Anybody stacking on to help out that? Okay. So yeah, let's keep putting. I already put one fact on the table. I wish I forget already. So yeah, it was that is the test. Recap the last thing you
So
said.
there was the testing. He's been testing us in the back out in the beginning, the fire
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
kobolds, testing us about our
Yeah,
strength and
he's
bravery.
mentioned testing. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
testing.
Okay. Oh, and he mentioned recruits. So I'll give you. So
Yes.
yeah, that
Yes.
he mentioned recruiting things. Join us, that kind of thing.
That's right.
Good. Anything else? And again, you could all share. We just have a minute to put more things on the table.
Evanthal has had a history with the Naratham and Cavendor
Okay.
clans.
Yeah, good. Okay, so I think for fun, so yeah, that might be relevant. The fact that they're opposed to Narath and Cavendor, I'll maybe put a bead in my hand because of that.
And Dinesh is a human, and I wonder how he got mixed up in hell,
Okay, sure.
the devil, and what he's
They've probably signed a contract.
Is he linked with the chain devil? Because when he was sitting at the fire, there was like that chain that lashed out.
Ooh, interesting.
remember that. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to give you a plot point. That is a deep cut. Give me your card. So, when you also come up with something that's like, oh my God, you link together two really distant parts of the story, and if I just get that feeling like, that's an awesome deep cut, I'm going to give you a plot point. Oh, you can write down plot points. You're telling a little story here, but plot points are literally these stamps.
Okay.
So I won't stamp on your thing there.
Gotcha.
Just whenever I kind of get that feeling. Yeah, so you can re-roll a die for any reason by doing those kind of deep cuts. Okay, so that's definitely relevant. Sorry, Maria, you were saying earlier about that he's a human, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if he's a human, why is he? Let's just say he's associated with hell somehow. Okay?
Yeah.
And that's very clear. So let's definitely give a point for that. Okay. Maybe one more thing before it's time to start choosing a skill. Then we'll roll. Okay. All right. So the two of you, what is a skill that you have in common that is also the kind of thing you think will get the kind of information you're looking at? You have a chance to talk to Renish in particular and remember your encounters with Renish.
I suspect our skills are a bit diverse.
Probably, yeah. I mean, I've got high religion that probably isn't so closely related to Renish, maybe, although he's in hell, so maybe history.
Yeah, my strengths are all in things like acrobatics and sleight of hand and survival and stealth and so on. Well, I've got +1 on insight.
Yeah, keep in mind that even if you're not trained in something,
Yeah.
it's a strong stat, that means you're very close to it.
I've got a
It'd be like-
+3 history. What's your history?
It's just equal to
History.
0, so that's okay.
What was your insight +1?
+1.
I've got 3.
Oh, okay, a +1, +3 on insight. That sounds like
Yeah.
a pretty good one.
Why don't we go with that?
Yeah, it's good.
Insight.
Insight applies specifically when you're talking with sentient beings. It's quite specific, but can get very hard to reach information. You're reading their emotions and sensing them, reading their micro expressions, and also tell whether they're lying and all that stuff. Also, I forgot to mention the cabin door thing is also relevant. So I did put a bead in my hand.
Add 5 on 3.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So insight.
Should we roll?
Yep. Please roll and add 5 to your other bonuses. Ooh, big rolls.
24.
26.
Woo! All right.
Virtual high five.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, 26. That really that overkills it. So you get full success, and you might find a way to gain a little bit. And each of you got above 20, so each of you will get a bit of a reward here. Okay, let me think about this. Well, your insight tells you correctly that Renish is just dying to talk about this, and he seems very pleased that you've got curiosity. He gets the impression like he's I'll just sort of, without necessarily role playing because I'm not the best actor, and it'd be quicker for me to tell you. Here's a few things you read from on the insight thing. He's extremely sincerely proud of being in a band film, and this is something you'll come across, lawful evil. He really believes that this is the only logical solution to solve a problem the world has, and that is the problem of chaos and demons. It says, you mortal, material plane obsessed, you are always thinking about what is the good thing to do. I'm going to give a coin to a peasant because she's hungry. You don't realize that demons are going to come across this entire land. They're going to eat that peasant. You can save 1 million peasants with 1 million coins, and none of it will matter if the demons take over the material plane. We are in the Blood War, and the Blood War is where the demons need to be held back by any means necessary, he says. You've already brought up the fact that he's associated with the devils. So let's say in the conversation at some point, you mentioned like, okay, the Abanfuls are mentioned the devils. As you do so, what do you think what is your character's stance towards associating with the devils? If you're very good, if you're traditionally raised, you might say that with an undisguised note of like contempt or fear or whatever else. But if you're a sort of an evil tending character for whatever reason, you think the devils are actually a good thing, mention that. But are both of you kind of the typical heroic ilk, like you typically associate devils with bad things?
Yes.
Yeah. So as you say so, you probably can't help but, maybe you try to be as diplomatic, but you're not doing persuasion and charisma here. You're just basically reading him. So you can say pretty bluntly. And he sneers at the whole idea of this is what I mean by any means necessary. People, you'd be wise not to mention any sort of association between the Abanphils and devils. You won't be able to prove it. You won't be able to get anywhere by saying so, and you might end up waking up with a knife in your back if you start spreading word about so-called devilry and Abanphils. We are a proud clan. The devils are an ally, and the devils are willing to do whatever is necessary to stop the tide of chaos. The chaos shards, he says, pointing to you, and pointing to you as you're down here. The ripening of chaos shards is part of the problem. The demons are incurring this world partly because of what's around your neck, he says. He doesn't go into more detail. That's maybe another mystery you can dig into, because he's back onto his agenda. The Abanphils have been around for hundreds of years. We are, I overheard one of you say, a dead clan. That is not the case. We are very strong. We are not always visible. We are often the power behind the throne. We advise kings and queens everywhere around this world. They know that if they need to solve certain problems, they need our advice. So, dropping in and out of character, the best way that you sort of gather with this insight and sort of the prize that sort of like how the mafia, if you have read sort of like, if you like Goodfellas or, you know, so one of the sort of mafia stories, they honestly think like there is horrible things that we are stopping. Yes, we have to do some things that you might call evil, but we just call it, we're unrestrained by petty sort of matters of good and evil because we get the job done. And if we didn't get the job done, horrible things would happen. And his main things is chaos invading the world, demons invading the world. However, your insight shows that he has a lust for power like anybody else. So just like anything else, people can have these high and mighty ideals, but also he kind of gets off, you know, on this sense of power and being feared. So if he's representative of the Abanphils, they also seem like, you know, they're thuggish in their own way, in that, you know, maybe there's using the devil, the demon thing as an excuse to take over everything. Because as he talks about advising kings and queens and being power behind the thrones of and behind the temples and all this stuff, you get a sense of, you know, kind of a smugness to him. And you get the sense they've probably infiltrated, maybe even secretly, you know, many organizations around here. You mentioned about Kavendor, so let's say if you mentioned Kavendor, they say, you know, that Kavendor was destroyed long ago. The Abanphils beat Kavendor. Your insight tells you he's probably twisting history a bit, like it's probably more complicated, but the way he tells it, Abanphil wiped out Kavendor. There's no such thing as Kavendor anymore. Narath is very far away. Narath used to be here, an empire that was here hundreds of years ago, but Narath retreated, causing ruin to hit this land. So you know from your history, because you rolled so well, that Narath is basically like the Roman Empire that expanded and then retreated. So imagine what happened to Britain. Like at one point, Romans were in charge, but when they went away, natural British Celtic society reasserted itself. That's kind of what's happened here. So he talks of Narath as an existing power, but again, he says because the Abanphils maybe beat them back, stopped them from, you know, passing all these laws and things to enforce good conduct, and also they left, we stayed. We're the reasons there is order, and that's the last thing he comes up with. Order, order, order. Just like any sort of, you know, fascist would dictate, like, we have this horrible problem and we need strength of law, we need rule of law, you need to be firm, you need to not worry about breaking a few eggs to make the omelet of order. So you get that impression from Renish. Now your main question was, what is Renish doing with the sort of testing? So I want to answer that. He very much says, yes, this is to test you. We are watching. You know, these red mirrors, we are watching people come through here. We are interested in each of you. Your type of person, he says. You know, it is rare to see someone not only be somewhat capable on this test, but to have become better at such things. I remember what you were like when you were being kidnapped by those kobolds, and you are already stronger. That was only 2 days ago. It's very rare that people come into this world, they're able to gain power and use their lessons so quickly. He says with great interest. Again, your insight tells you, you feel like you are a real prize. And this taps into the meta thing that I told you before. As heroes, you've always known you're special. Again, like you at your high school or your village, you were the only one that was like you. You're able to bounce back from damage. You're able to you're able to learn things in a week that would take other people years to do. So you get the sense with your insight, that's what he's talking about. basically, in meta terms, he senses that you're heroes. He senses you're the types that can become level 3, level 4, level 5. Someone who's level 5 can start to help, a group of level 5 characters can rule Timberway Valley. You know, you get incredibly powerful. You start thinking of other planes and entire continents once you get above level 5, right? It's epic. So that's what you sort of insight, that he sees you as a real potential. And he's honestly trying to convince you, like, you do not know how dangerous this world is, and you really should align with the Abanphils, and therefore passing these tests, if you're invited to the Abanphils, you should definitely take the offer. The last insight is this is an evil organization. You know, the way I define sort of the moral philosophy of D&D, that really evil is the absence of good, and if good is like respecting lives besides your own, freedoms besides your own, pain, suffering besides your own. He has no regard for any of that as you talk to him. I mean, and it's just that he just doesn't give any account for enslaving, killing, torturing, depriving people. It's all not to be regarded. You shouldn't hold back on that stuff because there's a greater order that needs to be imposed. So those of you who are shading into the evil side for your character, this is something that's a very appealing philosophy. Nowadays it's an appealing philosophy. Some people really think this way. And they don't think of themselves as evil like they're cackling and eating babies. They just think like, I just know what needs to be done, and I'm not going to be stopped by certain constraints.
Greater evil.
Yeah, there's a greater evil that they might define as like, we consider ourselves good because there's an even greater evil that we're doing. Yeah, so that's the justification that often comes.
It's interesting that the evil aligns itself with order. I thought that it would align itself with chaos.
Yeah, so chaos and evil are often very associated, and chaotic evil is extremely dangerous. So demons are chaotic evil, in that they actually take pleasure in destruction and pain and depriving of liberty. You know, so they'll actually seek it out because almost like a psychopathic kind of viewpoint, you know, where mayhem and death is exactly what they love to do for its own sake. Whereas lawful evil, then there's different shades of all these, but it's more like they're willing to ignore the restrictions of good in order to impose order. But you can be chaotic good. Chaotic good is like Robin Hood. You have very good intentions, but you don't believe in laws. You don't believe in following the rules, and you think the system is corrupt. Or like a hippie, kind of attitude is like, the entire system is corrupt, man. So I'm gonna fight the system and break down all the rules and talk about radical individualism, but I'm still a good person. I still believe in life and liberty and freedom for everyone. I just don't do it through systems, man. That kind of thing. Do you feel like that answered your question? Yeah. Oh, testing us in this dungeon. And you, as you hinted on before, he refers to again that there's another one, the Temple to Soon. He says there are several, but he's only going to tell you about there's a dungeon like this and a test and a lot of treasure just like this underneath the Temple to Soon. Find me there.
Does he describe what this place is called? What this temple is called?
Well, this is in what he calls the Caves of Chaos. Yeah, so he describes that this place is in the Caves of Chaos, and it is a fallen tower. He sort of let slip at one point, like this is, even though he almost never admits, the Reds ever lost at anything. He sort of admits that at some point the Reds built a tower here, but it was abandoned because the Caves of Chaos are so full of so many nasty things they couldn't defend it. So that's something that would be very hard to get out of Remnant, but you manage their insight to sort of figure that out as well. Whereas, Temple to Soon is like he considers a big accomplishment. He actually tells you where it is. So if you ever, it's north of the river. It's actually near those farms where you're at. He says it's hard to find. People forget what they're looking for, which doesn't make much sense. People look for it and they forget they're looking for it. But it's in the forest, and basically he describes places in the forest to the east of the towns that you're at. But there's something strange about it. It's like, you think that if he's moved around this land and been here for so long, he seems to be very knowledgeable. You think that he'd be able to give you landmarks and directions, but he kind of avoids, and you think that he's deliberately avoiding giving specific directions. And your insight tells you, like, it's not that he's withholding it for some reason, because maybe he honestly doesn't know. There's something strange about the way he perceives the world that you just get. There's something off about his sense of time and place and his perception, which you can't put your hand on. Okay.
Good roll.
Yeah.
You convinced?
I don't know.
Did they get any material for rolling on the
Yes, exactly. He gives you he gives you something. Ooh, this is great. Okay. He says it's very rare that I can feel so well understood by these adventurers that come through that are so distracted by their sense of good and right that they can't talk to someone like me the way that you have. This, again, your insight is you've been very good sort of wheedling your way and avoiding his sort of sensitive spots. So he says, I have a gift for each of you. So the brick he gestures, and the brick slides aside. He points towards it. You see there's two snowy white spheres, sort of like the size of ping pong balls, that are sort of now in a recess there. And each of you can pick them up. He says, you should take these. And they look perfectly smooth, maybe magical, so they've got to be worth something. Assuming you take them?
Yes.
You lose 1 hit point each as you touch them. They are desperately cold. You embrace yourself next time. You feel like now you know you might be able to hold on to it and do Constitution saving throws to avoid taking damage, but not being ready for it. It's like, ah! It's like it's amazingly cold. And he laughs. He says, you can get used to that with practice. He says, I think this is the old name for it, but I might change it later on. It says, what you're holding is a cold angel. Angel, sort of like the heavenly angel, but you're not sure why it's called an angel. A cold angel. You'll find that it can focus your mind in certain ways. So as far as you can tell, it's a source of intense magical cold. And you think that if you could find somebody who'd be interested in buying such a thing, or maybe you could sell it to a child, you know, who doesn't know any better. You both, of course, this is worth for each of you. So it is. So they're worth 1 gold piece each.
Hey.
Meanwhile, the ice wizard's like, hey, I'm willing to pay more than a gold for that.
I'll trade you something. I've got gold. Come on, someone trade me it. It's cold.
So as far as you can tell, yeah, he describes it sort of like something that you can work on, sort of a discipline, you know, like maybe it has something to do with the fact that it's so fucking cold that, you know, but you feel like, okay, maybe I could hold on to this for a few seconds without getting damaged.
Seriously.
Good berry for you each.
I want it.
Because the ice druid makes these things as well.
All right, who is left to make a move? We're doing well, but we got to keep moving.
That's us do.
Okay.
We'd like to investigate Torg and why he's still here, and why how he and his brother died.
Okay,
We
great.
think that with him, like, obviously being like, we're like guarding the trapdoor, that he very likely knows leads to possibly a hell, a devil, and Renish.
Yeah.
That he has some sort of association with.
Sure. So what's the shortest, sharpest question that you'd like to have fully answered? If there's one question that you could fully answer about Torg, how would you phrase it? Because there's many things
Why
about Torg, I'll tell you right now.
are you tethered here and not moved on?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah.
Tethered.
Yeah. Good. Fantastic. Yeah, so as you intuited, you used the word tether. Did I already give away something about tethering? Did I say something about this, or did you sort of intuit that?
You said when in the first session that he seemed to be.
He couldn't move from where he was.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, well, certainly that's true. Yeah, there's something about he seems to be kind of in a loop, and he does seem to be kind of stuck in this one area and stuck in
He
this
can
one loop.
somewhat materialize when he needs to as well.
Mm-hmm.
Poke
Yep.
his head through the floor.
Yeah.
But like when he was like doing like the foot
Sure.
pattern.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's undeniable. Yeah,
So-
I'd say that's worth
And the
something.
fact that, like, since you said that the like rooms that we've been in have been around for a very long time, there's a good chance that he knew that, like, you know, he's been there for a long time, so there's a good chance that he knows his brother's dead, but his brother has moved on. And
Interesting.
hasn't.
Okay, great. Yes, I'll give you a point for that. Yep, that's great.
Did you guys get Torg to help with the goblin and the kobold?
No, he was walking around going.
He was very much.
He ran out. His voice ran out, and he was trying to alarm the.
He was trying to signal to the mirrors, so obviously he knows
Ah, good,
some
yes.
sort of
Right.
connection with the mirrors.
Yep. So as you were doing jailbreak, it's like jailbreak, help! So he was waving to where you deduced later on must be where the red mirrors used to be, and
They
so
weren't
he was
actually there. There was
They
just the
weren't there.
frames.
right, just the
weren't
frames,
there.
yeah. But he was still waving as if they were still there.
And the fact that, like, he basically is one, like, decides that if we are strong, you know,
Yeah.
oh, maybe you shouldn't, maybe I shouldn't tell you about Joe, you know, maybe I shouldn't, like, send you back to the kobolds, I should try and actually take you to
Sure.
the devil.
Okay. All right. Good. Maybe that's relevant. Maybe that's not. I'll hold on to that if it is. Okay. Good. Yep.
if from what we know about where we are now, and that he was a ghostly form, it's likely that he would be in hell.
I do wonder if the kobolds even see him.
He was wearing red armor,
Pretty.
wasn't he? So
Yeah.
I'm assuming he's part of the Abanfil clan
Oh.
and
Which is
was
his
guarding the entrance.
Yeah,
Okay, yep,
his
I
brother
might
had
be adding
Yeah,
something
he's
based on that.
His brother had the rune on his hand. I think you figured out it's one of the clans.
Because he,
Yeah, that was a Banful language.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he has an affiliation with the Banfools, which the Banfools might have had an affiliation with the devil. Or
Yeah.
Inish.
Okay.
Most likely, devil.
Okay, good, good. We've got a few things. Maybe I have some things in my hand as well. Good. Anything else? Last chance, last chance. Okay, so of the things I prepped in my hand, one of them is definitely relevant, and that is the association with the Abanfil. So that is not coincidental that he was doing the same kind of things, saying some of the things about being strong, wearing red, and all that stuff. That you can sometimes use these things. Say, I'm going to make a hypothesis. Like each of you can say, I want to know if this is true. Is he a member of the Abanfil clan? So I'm basically going to sort of walk you into that. You deduce that he's a member of the Abanfil clan, and therefore the stuff you've learned about the Abanfils are going to help you sort of figure out Torg as well. All right, so we have a few things that are all relevant, and I can't wait to get into it. All right, so now what skill do you both share that is reasonably high, but also gives the kind of might give the kind of information that you're interested in? Meanwhile, you can take your time because I've got to copy over some information about Torg.
I was thinking intimidation.
Mm-hmm.
To try and intimidate him to answer us.
Is he friendly, Bart?
Do we have a cleric?
There's a good chance that, he's initially friendly.
He seemed
yeah.
to respect
so
us after he saw
your-
the
Respects
result
us,
of that.
yeah.
Background is something relevant. I forgot what it is.
Oh, let me mention something about intimidation. Yeah, sometimes people will feel a bit cheated by intimidation because it gets so narrow, like you have no chance to piss it off. I like to stretch intimidation quite a bit. Intimidation can be sort of like, again, the mafia boss puts a hand on your shoulder and smiles and says, I really like you. I really want you to keep coming back to my restaurant. But he just sort of this butt, and he sort of squeezes your shoulder. So it's not necessarily that you're being intimidated. It's like, oh, now he's my enemy. It's just like, okay, here's someone I respect and I still like, but I'm going to be more careful not to piss them off. So basically, you raise your esteem in their eyes, and they're kind of impressed by you, and I don't want to fuck with you kind of thing. So failing in intimidation can be bad, in that if it goes wrong, you can turn someone into an enemy. So definitely, it looks like deception. It can be quite negative, but also if it succeeds, it can succeed it can punch way above your weight. So there's a slight risk at using it, but I don't automatically say that any failure at intimidation, or even if it works, now they hate you. So keep that in mind. I mean, you can use intimidation or not, but just don't feel too limited about the use of intimidation. in
I
that
think
sense.
it was another group. Our cleric had something to do with our background that linked them together, and that's how we got Torg to help us with the fight with the kobolds and the gold.
Okay, so is that religion?
I'm not sure what it was, but
Um,
it was something in their background, so it was something written on your character sheet.
I would like to let Torg know that, he would have sent us down there for a reason, but of course, if we are strong, how could we help him, his brother, and the situation that he's going through? As much as he may be a servant, we could also free him from whatever torture he's going through. His
Okay.
imprisonment of being the bouncer.
Yeah, these are some things you might make of success. So let's focus on which skill you think you're going to make, because I think I'm ready to start answering some questions. Intimidation? Yeah, so, yep, you got that. Yep, got +5. So both of you add a +5 to whatever your intimidation is.
23.
23.
Ah, right, very
Did you
good.
say +5?
So +5 on top of so take your intimidation bonus and add an
Okay.
additional +5 because of all these facts.
25.
Okay, very good.
We are.
I know, you're slaying it.
I didn't
That's
know
awesome.
those meant anything. I was thinking, oh no, we're probably going to be the ones with just the twos,
Yeah.
No, you get nothing now. Cool.
Okay, give me a second, please.
25 and 23.
Intimidation, 25. Okay, great.
Just in dwarf and try to go, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse.
Give him a bit of your perfume. I'll stick a bit of perfume on. William.
Okay.
You want another?
So one thing is, of course, you're going to go to Torg because the last you knew he's in that room. So now you finally going to find the answer to the question. Is like, can we leave hell and go back to where we started? So you are all together again. You're going down that walkway, and you see the iron door. Okay, good. At least the iron door is there. You notice from this angle, maybe described before, the iron door is just kind of hanging in midair. And this is the impossibility of the walkway. Now that you've got your bearings more, see the walkway just goes like more than like 100 feet, just a thin brick walkway, and ends at this door, and there's nothing holding it up down below. It's just completely, just magically, suspended. You don't know. So this door is there. There's a red mirror above the door, and there's a bit of like brick around it. But you maybe during your mountaineering, you're able to kind of see from an angle, or like you say, let me check this out. Like you sort of remember your great mountaineering skills. You put on the pitons, you climb back under, and you look on the other side. Yeah, and the other side is just a brick wall. So the other side of this door is like a door that should open to a brick wall. You look and it just looks like brick. It's like you look back, it's like, okay, well this couldn't possibly lead to what we're looking for. But as you approach, the thing goes click, and the door sort of opens a little bit. Like you can tell it was firmly locked before, but as you come close and as your reflections appear in the red mirror, there's a click, and you're hoping what this means is that you can go through it. One of you, of course, being the brave one in the lead. You can imagine it being yourself. It doesn't really matter. You do open it, and yes, you are back into the initiation room. As soon as you walk back through, you again sort of confirm, like, yeah, that's like it's cold in here, but man, this place feels toasty compared to where you've come from. Do you decide to shut the door behind you, or do you keep it open? If it's open, it'll be much more cold in this room because the room's going to get cold quite rapidly. Just raise your hand if you think we should close it. Okay.
We're done with hell.
Ambushed from behind.
Yeah, that's
trying
right.
to get out.
All right, so you close it. Yeah, let me look up a couple things. All right.
When you ask
And
a question
Torg is
like
here.
that, it means something.
Now he's looking
Keep it
things
open,
up.
you'll die.
Very lovely.
There's
You're
still
looking
that
things up. That's
Fucking
fun.
creature that be half orc and
Oh yeah. I'm scared when he was talking about that. So, that's good climbing.
So Torg is still there, kneeling and just looking at the corpse of who he calls Eberk, who is just an upper half with extremely charred skeletal legs. The arm has been ripped off. That's the arm that one of you has in your inventory. With the hand, you turn into just a hand at this point, and the shards that used to be in it. And he's talking to himself, and you have a question about why he's tethered. Well, his own question is like, why what were you coming to find me? Why were you there? Why were you in that chimney? Like, why didn't you find me? So you just know that there's something about Eberk was supposed to find him. So that much you get for free, which or your role is starting to pay off. But this is just overhearing it.
That's how Eberk was.
His question is, why did Eberk not rescue me? So that's the main question. What I'm doing here is I'm digging into, and this is something that, again, on Patreon and stuff, I'll give away materials to my donors, where this is a thing that I have up on the slide here, this 56C, we'll refer to some things in the materials that I release, and this is actually delving into a mystery. So there's some things where I just have a wiki and I give you answers. There's some things where it's a little bit deeper, where there's a bunch of linked facts, and I have sort of like a whole mystery, and this is the question of the mystery. So that's what I'm just reading from here. So for you DMs who want to do this kind of thing, this is, taking a mystery, setting up a whole bunch of things to discover, and answering a fundamental question. All right. What is the main reason why you want to do this, by the way? So what's motivating you? Like, why do you want to know this about, why do you want to answer this question about why is Eberk here?
Well, like, especially when I saw that his Torg had his brother dead,
Mm-hmm.
and his sadness, it replicates, like, in my character, my character really thinks that death is relatable to him, so, as much as he wants to go on adventures, he would kind of stop for anyone that's in that situation. Because he knows what it's like to be there.
Okay, great. And how about you?
Since Turtle was a dwarf that grew up in a city away from his own clan, he ended up he relates to other dwarves that seem to be distant from other.
Oh,
that
okay,
their own
good.
people.
So it's a soldier.
Yeah.
So he could be like
So yeah.
service to the people from it.
So he's just kind of. He's just ever since he saw Torg's ghost, he was kind of curious.
Great. Awesome. Okay. So again, I won't role play all this, and also it's very hard because Torg speaks only 1 or 2 words at a time. Always an intake of breath, and then just sort of like a grunt, sort of this low grunt, which is a very strange way to speak. And you discover a few things. One of the things I'll discover is it's related to the stuff you're here at already. Okay. One is that you realize that Torg is dead. Torg has been dead for a long time. Torg is a ghost. And by listening to him and using your intimidation to sort of get him to become lucid, so your main intimidation was to snap him out of this loop that he's in just to pay attention to you. So just figure that that's why you're getting information out of him. And the reason you have to break him out is that he's a ghost. You rolled high enough that again spills over into what you know about a little bit of religion. Ghosts are spirits that can't move on. They died under such traumatic circumstances, and there's some unfinished business, and they are literally tethered, usually to one spot, or certainly to one situation. They themselves have a question they want to answer, and you have an idea that his question is the one I've already repeated, like, why didn't you rescue me? Why were you here? He now knows that Ebrook was up the chimney, and he didn't seem to know that before. His question, you sense this question they had even before he knew that, like, why didn't Ebrook rescue me? He died wondering that. And as you can see, the way that he flinches, the way you can see more closely that even though there's very not much of him to see, he's got this very high collar that just barely comes up to the edge of this edge of the beard, and then a big helmet, so you can't really see his face very much. But you can as you get close. He flinches away sometimes when you lunge towards him, and you get out of him that he was killed by torture. He was tortured to death right here, in the room up above where you saw him in the Cobalt jail. And as he was torturing out, he was crying out for Ebrook. He was saying, "Ebrook, save me! Ebrook, save me!" So because he died that way, his spirit is stuck. His spirit, they talked about what happens in your afterlife. Your soul gets tugged towards one particular afterlife based on your deity affiliation. This ghost's feelings about the material plane are so strong that it resists that force, and they don't move on. The other thing that you can sort of tell with the crossover intimidation religion, that when a ghost finds out the answer to his question, it actually does move on. So it can be dissipated, it can vanish. But otherwise, it's very hard to get rid of a ghost. You know that you can destroy a ghost. A ghost, like any other creature, can probably be destroyed. Because ectoplasm is sort of ethereal, that anything can be destroyed, but it comes right back to where it is. There's nowhere for it to go. It reforms.
Well, he's found out why Ebo can save him now.
Well, exactly. So now his question is like, what was he doing, in that chimney?
Chimney?
Had that,
Yeah. Yeah, there's
Is
like
it
a
a chimney?
There's a hidden fireplace, and there's a chimney that his body was up.
Or-
No, he came over for the other
That's
shard,
right, with the
and their
one
shards
on
went off to the Cobalt, so he's got sort of different set. All right. Sometimes I'm going to roll things, and I'm going to add this here because sometimes I'll decide whether you find out the truth or find out like a lie. If when I do mystery, if I tell you a lie, of course you won't know it's a lie. If you later prove this a lie because there's some contradiction, you know that whoever created the lie is a culprit. They're actually responsible for one of the things. So the thing that went wrong is, the sort of the crime here was, Ebrook being tortured to death, wondering what was happening. So if you find out a lie, it's probably somebody who had to do with that death, who caused that death or caused that torture. So sometimes I'll roll these things hidden to see if I'm ready to give you some sort of some sort of a lie or not. Okay, let me see.
Was it Ebrook or Torg who
Yeah.
was tortured?
Torg was tortured to death, waiting for Ebrook.
Yes.
So
and Ebrook was partly burned.
Burnt
And he had
legs.
that a bandful thing on his head.
Pushed up a chimney.
Maybe he was
Or
trying to escape.
up the chimney.
Yeah.
so now we're in the actual cave.
Yeah, in the red brick room that's in the
That's
Cobalt
just
cave.
underneath where the
Yeah.
jail is.
Yeah,
Under
underneath
the
the jail.
chains.
Yeah, you're right underneath
Right.
the jail. Where you
Got
started. Yep. Okay.
It's a torture chamber.
So as I've mentioned, Torg thinks that Eberk, had there some sort of scheme for Eberk to rescue him. That's obvious, right? That's what he's repeating. But as that happens, a voice from the Red Mirror, the Chain Devil's voice, when Torg says that, says, Torg, the Chain Devil, Torg, you are such a fool. You are being led on by Eberk. Whatever plan you had for Eberk to rescue you, Eberk was deceiving you the whole time. This is what tortures you, Torg. You know somewhere deep in your mind that Eberk said that he would rescue you, but he never meant to. Eberk had no intentions of ever helping you. So that's something that gets revealed as this conversation goes on, that Eberk was just leading Torg on, says the Chain Devil. And Torg, you can tell, is haunted by that thought. You can tell that's underneath sort of Torg's anguish, is not even knowing whether this scheme was legitimate or not. Eberk was a Red, so you can confirm that Eberk was a good standing member of the Abanfils. And I should give you more of this. So Eberk was here back when the Red Tower was a functioning tower. You know how I said that it was built by the Reds and then it got torn down by the Caves of Chaos? This is hundreds of years ago. Eventually, starting a few hundred years ago, or starting about 100 years ago, goblins started coming up from underground, and orcs invaded from somewhere in this area. And between those two, they kind of raided the land, and they really set the land back. That was about 100 years ago this happened. So that was the period at which the Red Tower was running here, and eventually it's now abandoned. Something went wrong. Eberk was a Red. He was guarding this room. He was a guard in the jail. And his job, the Red Tower, many floors above, and these floors that you see below, but you never saw Red Tower, when you were coming through the Charred Forest, so you don't know what happened to it. You don't know if there's any sign of it. But this room, the jail, his post was here, and he was supposed to guard the trapdoor going down. And this is because recruits were being brought into that Red dungeon down below, the same place where you went with the ice dome and the tower and all that stuff. This is a place where they would bring recruits to test them out and to trial them. This fits with what you've heard before. The Abanfils would use these underground sort of places full of horror and challenge to try to figure out who's got the right stuff and who's good at what. So Eberk was part of the system. He was the guard that would let people through and make sure that nobody went down that wasn't supposed to be there. That was Eberk's job. So Torg was a guard. Torg was a jailer in this room. Eberk was even more special. Eberk worked in the room below. His job was to initiate the Red recruits. So initiation, as far as you can tell, you're not sure if it was like torture or brainwashing or magic or something like that, but willing recruits would be taught how to believe in the Red Way, and they'd be given tattoos. They'd be tattoo needled, right, in order to give them power, to signify the power they had. But also slaves would be brought down there, and slaves would be basically pummeled into submission. By the time this initiation was over, these slaves really believed that they belonged in their place. They really believed that the Red Way was the only way, and they were supposed to, they would give their slavery willingly. They became basically brainwashed. So they had all the status of slaves, but the ones that were properly initiated, they didn't want to escape. They didn't think anymore that what was happening to them was wrong. They fit into this great chain of a hierarchy, and they were at the bottom.
Those people in that picture.
Very good. Yeah, I'm going to give you a plot point for that. That's exactly it. Give me that. That matches those people in that picture. Those blissed out people wearing red who were acting as the table. Oh, sorry, we'll cross that off. Who were acting as the table and the ottoman. That's exactly it. Those were those slaves initiates. All right.
You said they were doing tattoos. Is there like a tattoo machine?
this.
Yes, yeah, this is in the scene that you missed. There is a bunch of tattoo needles that some people have seen. So in the initiation room, nobody's spent a move digging that up, and we're out of moves now because it's the last one of the night. But yeah, there's a pot of ink, and there's tattoo needles, and there's a bunch of glyphs on the wall. So Ebert's job was to do the tattooing, to make willing initiates stronger so they could rise through the ranks, to usher them through the chained up door down into what you now guess is hell, to have the trial, but also to initiate slaves. So now you know something about Ebert, as far as you know, and Torg buys into this. Torg talks about this just basically his job. You know, he said this is just part of what we do. So you're learning something about Torg and Ebert. They were part of his enslavement operation and fully supporting the Abanfels in their mission. And you know that was what you call a lawful evil organization, and they were card-carrying members of the two. So you know that much. All right, let me figure out something else. Remind me what some of these facts were, because they help inspire me. And if anybody can remember some of the things that you mentioned that gave beads, because they'll do some things there.
Talk
To
was
remember
a,
from
Talk was a ghost. I don't know.
That he was tethered.
Yeah, that's right,
He was
tethered.
red.
He was
Ah,
the guy.
Okay, good. Yes, good. Okay, I got that. So let's talk about the tethering part, right? Yeah, okay. So Torg goes on to say that he and Ebert had a scheme to escape the Red Tower. The Red Tower was fucked, basically. Like, monsters were attacking it in greater and greater numbers. This is when all the chaos was happening, the goblins coming up and all the other stuff hundreds of years ago. So Torg and Ebert, Torg says they had a plan to get out of here in order to survive and run away and have enough money to run away from the Abanfels and not be hunted down and killed for escaping them. They schemed to escape with a bunch of chaos shards, because with those chaos shards, back then as they are now, they're very valuable and they can start a new life together. Now this is again where the devil says, you are a fool to think that that was Ebert's plan. So now you already have a contradiction of these two things, right? You figure one is either mistaken or deliberately lying. From the devil is saying, I assure you that Ebert was completely gaming you, and Torg was sure that they had made a plan. So maybe Ebert is the culprit for lying to Torg. Maybe the Chain Devil is the culprit for lying to Ebert. You don't know which. But now you have two things that are in contradiction.
He was trying to escape through a chimney instead of through the normal pathway.
Exactly. Right on. That's right.
He was trying to escape in general, not
Maybe that's why
Yeah.
he's gone up the chimney.
Torg said, Ebert used the confusion of the attack to take shards. You understand that shards were very useful to the Reds somehow. That the shards are somehow used as part of initiation and part of strengthening the Reds. Chaos shards make the Reds stronger. And because of that, shards are being used, so some of the initiation involved chaos shards. So Ebert had the ability to get a hold of chaos shards. And he, Torg says, was slowly, kind of quietly embezzling them, and in the confusion of all the attacks was able to get away with it. So he had a collection of shards that he had.
Even though, so he was a red.
Yeah.
He was using the shards, even though the shards are something that the Abanfels are against because they're chaotic.
Right, so you're wondering about this. Does anybody know how to resolve that? That the chaos shards that were in Ebert's hand were, just the raw chaos shards, the kind you saw before. Did anybody know a way through this contradiction that didn't Renish and the Reds say no shards are bad?
I think they were only bad if they were being ripened.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. As you remember back, that's the distinction, is the ripening of chaos shards was wrong. And Torg said in your sword said something similar, like ripening shards bad. Don't give them to the kobolds. Don't ripen them.
Is that because they're useful to the cobalt somehow and not in general?
That's yet to be found. Yeah, that is yet to be
Are
found.
they powerful when they're not ripened as well?
That seems to be it. So in their what we'll call raw form, if they're not around the necklace, they're not glowing. If they're not ready to be ripened, if they're just raw, they seem to be useful to the Reds. If they're ripened, they seem to be useful to the kobolds, or maybe it has to do with that silver visor thing. That's what we call the silver stuff. But this group will unpack that later on. Yeah. Okay. Let me see here. Ah, okay. You rolled high enough that I'll give you one more thing, but there's some details that I won't go into. As part of this scheme, Torg was caught trying to help Eberk escape. That there was some sort of, heist-like thing they were going to do, that Torg was going to let Eberk out of the trapdoor, but Torg blew it. He got caught opening the trapdoor to let Eberk out so they can make their escape, and that's where everything went wrong. And that's where he breaks down so much that's hard to get much more out of him. These mysteries, they're all useful to get these things because you could use these in other ways, but you don't find out the entire mystery even with one great roll. It takes kind of repeated work at it, but even finding part of these mysteries could all be useful. So Torg Torg says, "I was caught by the mirror." So he points to the red mirror. The mirror saw me trying to slyly open up the lock on the trapdoor.
And that's the lock that we went. That's the trap we went down in the beginning from the jail.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that would be the chain devil then.
Yeah. So they caught me.
So Torg was guarding that trapdoor from people to get going in there because initially it's instead of taking down there.
Yeah, it's kind of a
So
two-way thing. Yeah, he gets this
Eberk-
is highly regulated. Like he was make sure the wrong people don't go up and the wrong people don't go down.
So
It's like a
Eberk wasn't
jail.
allowed to go back up there. He had to stay in the dungeon.
That's a good impression. Yeah, that Eberk had no business going up the trap door, and he was supposed to stay there. But Torg was kind of quietly preparing the trap door so that he and Eberk could run out.
It was another way that maybe like you can't get through the trapdoor, but you could go a different way to get out back into the red tower. Or was
Let's
it
see.
kind of-
Or
you
you
just kind
stand
of
in
went
a
down there.
chimney, so I'm assuming that was a chimney.
I'm curious
Yeah,
as to
that's the
why-
question. Yeah, it's exactly so. Yeah, Torg wanted to open up the trapdoor, maybe didn't succeed, got caught doing it, and he was calling out for Eberk. Well, how could Eberk have come up through the trapdoor? Because the trapdoor hadn't been prepared. But Torg was still expecting Eberk to come rescue him anyway. But he's wondering, like, why were you there? He said it doesn't seem like the fireplace is a mystery, something we can dig into later on. It doesn't seem like the fireplace surprised Torg for some reason. But why was Eberk going up the chimney?
Maybe he had Torg being like, I don't know, captured. And
Yeah,
coming out
could
from
be.
when, oh, we're screwed now. Let me escape. really
Exactly.
quickly and
Yeah,
get
so
off
that's the
this
central
way.
question that's torturing Torg. Like, did Eberk just ditch me? Or was he, was he somehow trying to save me but somehow failed in the attempt? That's the thing that's keeping him here on the material plane. All right.
Curious
I hope
as
we
to-
find out why eventually, so we can come back and free him.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know as to why he actually wanted to leave. Obviously, they were working, like he was working for us. They liked him at first, but then all of a sudden something changed.
Were they brothers? I think one mentioned.
They're brothers.
They were
Yeah.
brothers.
Like it could be like, did they find that the whole Banfield clan is evil in some sort of way, and that's why they don't like them?
Wasn't it
or-
because the red tower had become to an end and all
Being
the
attacked.
yeah they were being overrun by goblins and stuff, so they wanted to get out.
chance out, and he
There was a lot of rubble in the chimney, so maybe it caved in while he was there.
Well, it's like if they were trying to escape,
Got
then maybe they would have had good
something
intentions.
Yeah.
But if they were genuinely trying to escape because the lead, like their clan, was falling apart, then that's different. Like
Yeah,
we're
why
like,
would he be killed?
I'm still evil, but I'm only leaving because it's not so good anymore.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm leaving
They
because
probably
this is a
expect
bad
you to
place.
sacrifice your life to defending the tower.
I'm
I
the
believe,
tower.
yeah, like he did say they wanted to escape because they were being raided by like the goblins and
Which doesn't
Then why
portray
would the red
Torg
people-
necessarily as a good person. It could be like
because they were
he's quite.
abandoned
It could be.
outposts.
It could portray him as someone that's quite selfish. So
Well, he would have
we're
known
helping
what was
him out.
going on. He would have known what was going on in the
Exactly.
room below. So they were.
At the time, they were.
Yeah, you get
part
the
of
impression that like
Yeah.
they've been doing this for years. This is just
Yeah.
part of their regular job.
Maybe they were also being in submission into thinking that what they were doing was right. Because if that was their job to do that to other people, then they were also tricked into
Brainwashed.
tricked into thinking that that's the right way.
Okay, I have just sort of one last thing to cover before we. I really am eager to do this, so let's give it a go. These things happen sort of at different times. They didn't happen necessarily linearly and all that stuff. I'm going to sort of flash back to something that happened in the Ice Dome while you were there. that you're wondering about the imps. At one point, after you've done your investigation and you're sort of checking out the imps, and maybe this is because you feel like you're starting to talk to yourself like, this is weird, like, are we in Cania or whatever else? Some mayhem broke out, and it might not be coincidental that as soon as you're doing this investigation, maybe this was designed to distract you from the discovery that you're making. This is why you didn't get yet more information. It is that you hear the flapping of wings up above you in that dome, and the icicles start to fall. Those icicles I mentioned a few times, they're like daggers, and it seems like something is disturbing them. You're guessing that it's the imps, the same flapping of the sound of the wings. Sometimes there's a puff of like ice crystals that seems to like form around an invisible shape. So you have imps that are moving around trying to knock icicles down onto you. And that's why we're going to do a little quick, sort of a quick combat. This is a little thing that we do just to sort of spice things up as a chance to use some of your combat skills. It seems like you all like the investigation very much, but sometimes it's fun to have for varieties. Let's use a couple of those level 2 skills. So here's how it works. We've basically done this before, and this is sort of a more streamlined version I'm writing down. All right. First of all, there is a number of beads I'm going to put in the middle here, and this is the number of dangers that you have. This is just a one-round thing, so it hits kind of hard if you don't take care of it, but it's not like going to happen over and over again. We're going to do one round of quick combat. And so basically what you're after are, there's invisible imps that are knocking down icicles. And when the icicles fall, you're going to need to do a dexterity saving throw to jump out of the way. So the better your dexterity saving throw, the more confident you are about taking more of these beads on or whatever else. If you're worried, if you definitely don't want to lose hit points, you feel squishy, you might want to avoid some of this conflict, but you have to share the load here. I'm going to put in a number of beads that's the equivalent here. So we have 9.
Is there any way to cast a spell before this?
As part of your action, you can. So when you do, when it's your turn, you go around the table. So I'll go and just basically clockwise. Let's do one thing. It doesn't work counterclockwise. I'll do it randomly. Which one I pick? If it's odd, it's going to be clockwise. Going to go counterclockwise. So start there and go all the way around. Okay. So that just means that your initiative was a little bit low. When it gets to be your turn, you can cast something like Bless or whatever else that'll affect everybody that comes after you, but this might change your formulation, knowing that you're a bit low. So you can, on your action, do something that's offense, right? You just like you did with the oil monsters, the liquid golems. You can try to destroy an imp. You can try to maybe evaporate an icicle. This is a place where these quick combats are supposed to be just cinematic. This is a side of D&D where it's much less crunchy and mechanical. It's kind of loose and cinematic like a lot of streams tend to do, but I still like you using your actual things on your character. So you want to use something you're good at, but you can use skills as well, right? You can be creative. If there's a particular skill that you have that you think it applies, go ahead and try to just convince me that the skill is what you want to roll. What you're all doing is rolling a d20 and adding a good big number to it. It could be your attack bonus, but it could also be a spell that you're casting, a cantrip or something, or it could be a skill that you're using. When you do that on offense, if you choose to use something that burns a resource, like if you decide I'm going to use my action surge, which you can only have once per short rest, I'm going to use a level 1 spell slot, something like that, something that you miss out on, you'll get advantage on the roll. So whatever you roll, you're going to roll again. And it's always going to be a d20 where you add something to it. So don't worry about the exact definition of your spell. You can kind of bend what your spell is about. Don't worry about the exact range and all that stuff. Think of the sort of the flavor of your spells, the flavor of your items. When it's your turn also, you want to use, whatever, you can use your bows, you can use your swords, whatever else, but there are icicles down, so you have to be creative, like how to use a sword to do offense against an icicle that's plummeting down. Offense is where you try to take out a threat that's against you, and then there's a round of defense, where everybody who has a bead in front of them has to do a dexterity saving throw or else take damage. The number of beads that you have is going to be rather large. We have a large number of people. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But because, if you do a good job, you'll take out a few of those. Let's have another 6.
Oh,
So 15
Each
go
of
up.
these,
all the imps?
yeah. So each of these is going to be an icicle coming down towards you, and this is where you all volunteer to say you're going to move towards your area. We'll just do. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. So this is your space on the seat. 2, 3, 4. So if you move in that area, it means that that's a danger you're willing to take on. Every bead that ends up here, if you don't destroy it first or somebody else destroys it, that's going to be a dexterity saving throw you have to make or else you'll take damage. If you're squishy, if you, none of you are really low on hit points, but if you're low on hit points, you might want to take fewer beads. If you're a tank, you want to take more beads because you've got things like second wind. You can always recover yourself later on. If you're just especially good at dexterity saving throws, you might want to take on beads that way. All of you now, your job is to negotiate with each other, and all of these beads have to end up assigned to one of you. If after a minute they're not assigned, I'll start assigning them randomly.
So
Alright.
Move beads
Oh,
towards
nice.
your
Nice.
area
Nice.
if you,
I'm happy to
for
take
the
three.
number of dangers you're willing to take on.
I would take 3.
You can do another one. Another one. No. What about that?
And
What
I've
do you
got
want?
3 left.
I'll
One
take,
back.
one. One? Three on
Yep.
just one
Who's
each.
got,
One each, guys. One each.
Yeah, there's probably no reason not to take at least one, but if you have a few tanks and all that stuff, that's great. Then you're sparing someone else damage that, you know,
Do you want to take one?
you're not
This
necessarily
one's
going to have a long rest.
Good.
Your
I'll
next,
take one
your
of
next
those.
battle may be coming
I
without a
kinda
long
feel like
rest.
there
So.
should be more this side of me.
Yeah.
Anyone that's got 3 should give to somebody that way.
I
Is
spent one
this-
mine.
Are these actual grid squares? Like a, do we have a?
No, that's just.
No, it's just
That's
your
just rough.
designation. Yeah.
Yeah.
How big is the dome?
I would say like about 80 feet wide. I'm going to write down
So are we
a
trying?
secret whammy. This is something that if there's maybe something that if you make the wrong move, it might make your attack less effective. So I've written down something here that is for me to reveal if anybody does it. Don't mind that. It's fun.
So are we
Depending on
supposed to kill ants to stop the
Right,
ice
so
ants from falling?
first round is offense. Yes, I'll start and go around. You basically you want to take out one of the dangers before it can damage you, and your main dangers are either the imps are disturbing the icicles, or the icicles falling down towards you. So it might be something that destroys the icicle itself, you know, before it has a chance to hit anybody, or hit you in particular, or taking out the imp, these invisible imps that are moving around.
Right.
Okay.
Cool.
Let's see what else. When it's your turn, yeah. As you pick, that's it. Yeah. So you want to try to like get a bonus. So if you describe something with a lot of verve or like a really great sort of cinematic, they might say, oh yeah, take a +1 for that. If you pick something that's like, well, this is not my best skill, but it's a really awesome idea, I'm more likely to give you like a +1 or +2. So you don't have to min-max this. This is not really a do the best math kind of exercise. Just try to think of something that's fun. And
Okay. I think I got an idea.
okay, great.
Can I cast sleep on the imps?
Great. See, this is a great example where sometimes instead of advantage, I'll say it can affect multiple targets. So this is the thing where you can affect multiple targets. The last thing I forgot to mention, you don't have to take out your own bead. If you're feeling especially heroic, you can say like, I'm going to take out somebody else's bead instead of mine. So I'm going to let all 3 hit me because I've spent my action taking out, you know, one of somebody else's beads. So keep that in mind. Sleep, yeah, you can say, well, I'm going to try to affect mine, right?
Yep.
But if sleep works, if you roll, I'll have you roll Arcana to see how well you do. Because your magic attack bonus, whatever your magic attack bonus is. If you roll well enough, you're going to take out 2 or maybe even 3 other targets. So, yeah, you sort of see from the moving, the flapping of the wings, you try to pick a spot, because it's a relatively small spot in this of sleep, and you aim it, and you try to put as many imps as possible to sleep. Go ahead and roll your spell attack bonus.
What's the spell attack bonus?
That would be your, what are you, a wizard? That's
Yep.
intelligence +2, because 2 is your
Okay,
proficiency
cool.
bonus. Yes,
Sweet.
do that, yeah.
16.
Okay, give me a second here. I'm pulling up imp. Such as immunities and resistances and stuff like that, too. All right. Yes, you're not sure. Can imps fall asleep? Because you know sleep is a little dicey. Some things can't be fall asleep. You are very pleased when the flapping slows and stops and there's a plummeting sound. What was your roll total again?
16.
16. That is enough. Okay, that's enough to take out 2 imps. Now burn your spell slot, because that was a level 1 spell slot. Congratulations, you take out the imp that was threatening you, but you get to take out 1 other imp for anybody else.
You got 3, so I'll take out 1 for him. Or whoever's got 3.
Thank you.
All right. Next, counterclockwise, what do you do to try to get rid of imps?
I am still grasping this hempen rope that I found.
Ooh, okay, right on, yeah.
And I am very handy with my skills, so I made a sort of lasso type thing and I've thrown it up and I'm going to actually try and take out
I
some
love
of the
that.
icicles.
Okay, that's it. I'm going to give you a +1 for that. I just love that. So what I'll do is I'll say that because the magical rope, I'm actually, well, see, there's proficiency, right? So normally I'd say, this is an improvised weapon. You're not proficient at lassoing because some people have learned that. But because it's such a cool idea, I'm going to give you like a +2 anyway because I love that idea so much. So it's like you're proficient. Yeah, this is you're kind of flicking it. Are you better at strength or dexterity? What's your better one here?
Dexterity is +3.
Yeah.
And strength is 2. So
Yeah,
dexterity.
yeah, I'd say so. This is a really dexterous move. You're trying to whip it very fast and very precisely, and you're trying to sort of wrap up and you're trying to get the icicles or the imps. Which is the thing you're trying to lasso?
Well, the icicles I thought to get them
Sure.
so because they're about to.
That's
fall down
awesome.
and-
That's awesome. Okay, so I'll give you a +2, but just roll dexterity, a d20 plus your dexterity bonus plus another 2.
11 plus 3 is 14 and 16.
Oh, good. All right. So yes, you managed to do that. You take out. Are you going to take out the an imp over you? Yeah. Or take out icicles over you. So you take away.
Icicles,
Yeah. So you take away. One of the two groups of icicles. One of the two icicles plummeting towards you. But because you rolled a little high, I love your idea. There's something else you discover. With horror, as you go up there, as it wraps around, one of the icicles slices through your rope, and your rope falls down into 2 halves. Your new rope is cut in half, and it lies down those 2 things. But the 2 ends sort of twitch, like as they're near each other. The 2 pieces of rope are sort of twitching, and there's something strange about that. So now you have 2 ropes. Say you have a 20-foot rope and a 30-foot rope for now, but hold on to that thought, because after all this is over, there's something strange about the way the ropes are acting, and the cut is extremely precise. It's like the rope almost came apart rather than got cut apart. Anyway, what do you do?
Right, so what I want to do is wait for one of the icicles to start falling, then I'm going to use my acrobatics to get out of the way so it smashes and hits the ground.
Ah, awesome,
And then
right.
I use my action surge, which is my extra move, to whip out my bow and shoot at one of the imps.
Ah, that's right, because he gets 2 actions. So again, he's burning something special, and this is a way to get advantage. What I modify a little bit, yeah, because it's an offensive move. What you'll do is that you're not jumping out of the way of the icicle. You're doing like maybe a bicycle kick flip, right?
Yeah,
where,
acrobatic
you're
flip.
upside down. You're kicking at the because you know you can't grab it; it'll cut you. But you manage to kick the icicle away if you roll well enough. So let's do one icicle that's on you, and now you don't have an icicle on you, so you can pick somebody else's icicle that's heading for them. No, you are 1, 2, 3. Sorry,
This one too.
Yeah.
This is me.
Yeah. Have I done this right? I made one too many. Okay, go for it. So
So
first, the acrobatic kick
the
flip.
acrobatic kick, so
Yes.
I've got a +5.
Acrobatics, very
So
good.
that's 16.
16, yes, that is. You take away one of your icicles. So smash, your bicycle kick works. And now you land, but you have a bonus. You are burning your one thing that you can use, which is your action surge. Now you do an attack.
Shoot my longbow. And
Okay, great.
So 18. plus
Man, you are all
7
rolling
is
great.
25.
Holy cow. 25 is so good, so you get rid of that. If you exceed by 10, you're able to take out a 3rd icicle for somebody else.
Well, I might get rid of that one.
All right, man, 3 in 1 go. You're next.
Okey-dokey. I'm just going to reach into my bag and grab the first hard implement, which is the crowbar for some reason.
Okay, sure.
And I decide I'm going to try and chuck it at one of the falling icicles.
Ooh, wow, okay. I think that this is kind of funny, right? So I'll give you a +1 for that. Now you're not proficient at it, and you're use dexterity, and use a +1. But I do think it was a pretty fun move.
Which makes it a 0.
Like I said, I'll give you a +2 because you're so bad at it. It's sort of like basically making up for the fact like it's just a really silly moment. I like that. It's like, you panic and throw a crowbar, which you're not very good at. So you get a dexterity +2. Still not great, but hey, it's going to be great if it works. And the dice agreed with you. Yeah, you completely flail. You do not hit any icicles, and that threat still maintains. What do you do?
What's dashing do?
Dashing, you just move further. I'm not sure. I mean, you could use anything creatively, but dash is you're able to move further.
Alright, well, I'm pretty sure I can use 2 actions. Is that right?
Only cunning action. You can disengage, dash, or hide. I'm not sure how any of these would work. Well, if the imps are trying to do, well, I'll say if you use your hide, I'll give you a plus. I'll give you a plus on that because you can use your bonus action to hide with your new skill, and maybe the imps won't be able to see you very much. You need to hide behind someone. You're a halfling, though. You can kind of use one of these people as cover. So I like that. So let's say that you're using your stealth skill, to try to how do you destroy? Yeah, to try to fool the icicle into falling in a different place. Roll stealth. I think it's what I'm all saying. I'm going to use your bonus to say you can use stealth here.
I got 4.
Okay, 4. Now, you try to hide behind one of these people here, but they're like, I've got problems of my own. They don't stay still long enough for you to make anything. But that was a bonus, so that was sort of a free action you're able to take thanks to your cunning action. Now you can just do a regular attack to try to hit an imp or try to hit an icicle on the way down.
I'm gonna go from imp because I don't think arrows are that great.
Okay, try go for the imp.
I don't know how thick the icicles are.
All right. However, after reveal, the imp is invisible, so you have disadvantage on
Okay,
this.
cool.
So you got to roll twice and take the lower of the 2.
That's a 14. I'll take lower of the 2?
Yeah, you got to roll twice, take the lower 2.
Oh, okay. So I get 13.
A 13, that is barely enough. So you clip its wing, but that's enough to send off. These are the weak imps apparently, because as they fall, they turn invisible, and they are the shivering red ones. They're quite easy to kill. You've taken out, so take out one of your beads. Good job. Still the one after you. What do? You have no dangers on you.
I would like to cast Fairy Fire so that I can make some of the imps visible.
Woo! Very good. Okay, very good. All right, so you burn that fairy fire. That's great. Again, you can affect multiple things. Use your spell attack bonus. I know that usually it's a saving throw, but we do it a bit differently in quick combat. So do a d20 as your usual spell attack bonus. See how well you do. You try to uncover more than one.
19.
Okay, 19. All right, yeah, with that, you uncover a couple imps. Good job. So, a couple of these imps are going to become visible. Which ones are they going to be?
The next 2, okay, so is it going to help with the other ones on that people that have already passed? It's just going to be...
Yeah, all these are gonna do a round of attack. And I'm sorry, I didn't realize, I really want to talk.
Okay.
Do you mind if we go? It's okay if you go right now, but okay, thanks.
So,
We'll do quick.
1 each of the next 2.
Okay, great. Okay, great. So these are visible.
No, 1 each of the next 2. So
Okay.
I'm this one.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so those imps, one of the imps that each of you have is actually visible, and therefore you don't have disadvantage if you attack it with the weapon. Very good. That was your offensive move. Good job. And make sure you burn that spell slot. What do you do?
I'm wondering if I was to use Burning Hands, whether that would actually be able to melt.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, because that's Burning Hands, ice. It's a really good match. So not only will you have advent, or you have to be able to affect multiple things, but I'm going to give you a +2 on that because that's a really good one. Okay, awesome. So do a spell attack bonus. Again, not what you usually do with Burning Hands. Tell me what that is. That's how many you will affect. Spending a spell slot, try to affect more than 1.
Roll.
You got a +2 on top of everything else because I love that idea.
So that's a 9, and then my attack
Yeah, spell attack bonus. That would be
there. Okay, yep. So that's a 14
very good.
plus 2. Did
Plus
you
another
say?
2, yes, 16. Okay, that's great. So you are able to take out 2 of them. Take away 2 beads. Now, of course, the visible imps you might not want to take away because it's the invisible imps that you want to take away. Basically, take away their icicle.
These
Yeah. Yep.
ones.
Okay. All right. Good. So, boom. Just imagine like you spread your hands out to sort of fan the flame and melt away those. They take a lot of effort to melt away. By the way, it's magical cold. You really have to keep it on there very intensely. What do you do?
Well, I've already got one that's visible. I might as well put my bow in and shoot it.
Yeah, I mean, you can shoot anybody's, but yeah, the one's right above you, and,
Yeah.
and shooting yours is a real smart idea. All
Because
right.
my icicle's gone, the other one's gone, so.
Okay,
Might as
try to
well
shoot
just
that.
get a
Now
shot.
without disadvantage, you get to shoot.
Okay, and 7 plus. So yeah, 7 plus my, what is it?
Oh yeah, that'll be your bonus right here, your longbow. It's so actually a +7, you're very good. Yeah, because you're
So
very good at archery.
14.
Yeah. Oh my god, so 14, if it weren't for the fact that you have all these extra points in archery, you have a +7 at shooting. Nobody else here has a +7 in their attack bonus. You are especially good, only because it's visible, by the way, thanks to the fairy fire. You were able to actually destroy it. So, despite a not very good roll, good job. That was taken care of. How about you?
I think I'm a magic missile.
Okay, all right,
I was
yeah.
gonna do the burning hands, but I don't want Poppy, you know?
All right, that's awesome. So magic missile, you have to normally be able to see a target, but what you're doing is you're seeing the icicles as the targets. And what you're trying to do is like pick the right target. So what I'll do is I'll use even though it's a magic missile is guaranteed to hit, I'll still use your spell attack bonus for being able to pick out the right targets. The better you do, the more icicles you're able to take out. So
And that's
hitting icicles is okay. Hitting the right icicles is the problem.
There is a
intelligence
visible.
+2.
What?
Intelligence +2, right?
Yes, that'd be intelligence +2, but I do like that idea. You'll be able to take out multiple targets.
9.
Oh, with a 9. Well, you do take out one target. That's good. Cross off that, but you're not able to exceed that. So you hit lots of icicles. And pew, 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 like 4 icicles explode, but they're not quite the ones that were threatening. So take out any one bead, perhaps your own. Okay, all right. Okay, all of you who have a bead, now you are going to do a dexterity saving throw. Try to avoid damage. Roll a dexterity saving throw.
Does it
Which
help
one's
that
that
they-
one?
No, it's the icicles themselves. Yeah, so the fairy fire won't help. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, because somebody would be able to see me and do it.
Not so much. Yeah, so this is happening very quick. Imagine it all happening in just a few seconds. So if you have a bead, do a dexterity saving throw.
Something I'm very good at. 21.
Woo! Okay. If you did not get it, if you got a 12,
Oh no.
if you got a 12 or higher, you're okay. Otherwise,
I'll
you
give you
take.
some of my numbers.
Okay. If you roll less than 12, an icicle stabs you badly. You take 5 points of damage.
Oh, rough.
I told you, it's short but hits hard.
I was about to say, how good is the ice?
Imagine, like, you did a really good job. You burned a lot of spell slots. Imagine if a lot more of those had fallen, right? But you took out a lot of them. So there were only a few targets left, but that hit you pretty hard.
Damn, my negative
And I was about to take 3.
Well, I
Alright.
have second wind, so I might just.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
they
you can
take it
instantly
down
use
to
your
one.
second wind. You won't be able to use it again. So it's up to you. If you use second wind, feel free. Thank you for going a little bit later, but I really wanted to try out that dynamic a little bit more smooth. I hopefully hang around afterwards. Tell me what you thought of this session, what parts worked, how much you liked investigation, quick combat. All of them was good for feedback. Please fill out your feedback forms. Those are really useful. I've been steering things one way or the other based on your feedback, so they are important. Don't put them in the folder, by the way. Leave them on the table. Some people put them in the folder. I missed them, I think. So feel free for that. I am going to ask what you want to do next, but really there's the kobold area and the goblin area are the next thing. So I will ask for a vote. If you don't stay, that's fine. Just, somebody will vote. You can influence someone's votes and go anytime. But we are going to decide, are you going to try to go to the kobolds to figure out the silvers and shard ripening, or are going to go get outside and do goblin raids? Goblin raids is more action and combat oriented. The silver stuff is a little more mystery oriented and figuring out more about shards, the orrery, and the kobolds. So think about those. Yep, go ahead and leave those things there. I'm still taking donations. We've also got Patreon. So if you go to Patreon, look at Rolling Rogues on patreon.com. That's another way that you don't have to tap your card. But still, I appreciate donations because still it's $6 a person. I'm happy to lose money on this wonderful enterprise, but if you can help defray my costs once in a while, that would be great.